Hello, and we are live. Welcome to this very special Sunday night stream. Before I bring on my guests tonight, let me do some shout outs here. Shout out to Future Dead Camper. Thank you for 10 months of being a channel member. Appreciate that. Let's see, who else have I got with me tonight? We've got Horror Orman, we've got Sasha, we've got 1980s Betamax, we got Rick, we got Redbeard, we've got Rock Music Forever, 90 Witch Hunter, we got Bog Zombie, Cinemurdrum, Mayor Classic Theater. Nice. We got Swaggy in the house. What's up tonight, Swaggy? We got Geriatric Geek. How are you, Bill? Hope you're doing well. We have Return to the Disc with us. What's up? J.R. Livingstone. How are you tonight? And R.J. Skarinky. Thank y'all for being here tonight and hanging out with us as we discuss our favorite canon films. That's right. Tonight, my friends, we'll be talking canon. If you've seen the Electric Boogaloo documentary about the rise and fall of canon films, then you know what you're in for. If not, it's a tale of two movie-obsessed Israeli cousins who came to America with one dream: to produce outrageous, badass, and supremely entertaining movies. And they succeeded. It's truly a tale that could have only happened in the 1980s. And thank God that it did. Because when I saw this opening, at the beginning of a movie that I was either watching on cable television or that I'd rented, I knew that I was in for a good time. Golden Globus bankrolled and produced some of my favorite movies of the 80s, and that's what we're here to discuss tonight, along with my special guests who are going to share with us their own. First up, making his second appearance on my channel, he is the Horror Geek. Mike Bracken, how you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, Piz, thanks for having me back, man. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out to do it. I know you had some sort of something happened recently, made you a little busy.
We'd like to talk on my show about how old I am. Well, I'm a grandfather now, my first time, so I really am old now.
Well, you have got listen, that he's going to be a lucky kid because you're going to introduce him to some great movies.
He's gonna have the best film education short of going to film school. And maybe
Yes,
better, because I'm not gonna make him watch a lot of those stuffy things I had to watch in film school. So
no. But congratulations on being a grandpa, man.
I'm super excited to be here on a show where I'm not going to get canceled for like not liking something everybody loves. So last time I was here, I was like, oh, how many times will I get canceled tonight? So
we were close to
very
cancellation the last time.
I still owe someone an Alligator 2 review. So
okay, all right. Ooh, man, treading on thin ice with that Alligator 2 stuff. There you go. Exactly. Well, again, thank you for taking the time out to be here tonight, man.
Love to do it.
Right on. Also with me tonight is the author of these two epic tomes all about canon films, the Canon Film Guide, volumes 1 and 2, and soon to be volume 3. I'm talking about Austin Trunick. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, thank you for having me on. I'm excited. I'm doing great.
It's a pleasure. And who else better to talk about canon films with than the guy who wrote these two things, right?
Yeah. Well, trying to narrow down my favorites was so difficult, but I am excited to try. I'm excited to attempt with you guys to round out the gigantic canon library down to a few favorites.
And not just the enormity of the library, but the fact that so many of them are so damn good, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've said that you rarely find a traditionally good movie with the Canon logo on it, but it's really hard to find one that's not entertaining, like super entertaining.
Oh.
They did that very well.
Without question, without question. But before we dive into our personal favorites, I do want to ask you a little bit about these two books. I've got links to both in the description. Go check them out if you're a Canon film fan. Tons, a plethora of information, interviews, great stuff in these two
Thank
books.
you. Thank
You're very
you.
welcome. When did the idea of writing these first come to mind?
Yeah, it's late 2014, early 2015, right around the time my daughter was born. So it's easy to remember it in that way. But I had been doing a lot of freelancing, writing for magazines and writing for websites about film, but I wanted something that I could work on in the weird hours that I'm up with a newborn, as I'm sure Mike's going to be called on for babysitting and rocking a kid at 2 a.m. And so I wanted something. I was praying for something I could write then, and I was thinking back to what made me fall in love with movies, and it was times at the video store, especially with my dad, with my mom taking me to rent movies on a Friday night, and Canon was everywhere. Like these, you really couldn't go to a video store in 87, 88, 89 into the early 90s without finding them everywhere. And so naturally we rented a lot of these, and these are the movies that I grew up on. And as you begin to learn about them and learn about the crazy conditions they were made, they made movies very fast. They made sometimes up to 60 movies in a year, budgets all over in foreign countries, wild places. And once you begin to learn how these movies were made, the stories behind them are as fun as the actual films themselves. So I've had a blast. I've been extremely lucky to be working on such fun subject matter for the last 8 years, almost 9, I think at this point. Wow. It gets away from you.
And you are working on volume 3 at the moment, right?
Yes, I am plugging away at that. The
Okay.
books cover chronologically. They're all broken down into chunks of years, and the first one's kind of the rise after Golden Globus came, and they build up in popularity. 87's the second book is 85 through 87. That's kind of the height, the peak of the Canon years. That's when they were making big movies with big actors. When you had your Sylvester Stallone, you had your Michael Dudikoff movies, your best known Charles Bronson movies, times when they had lots of money and kind of blew it. And hence you get the third book. The third book is, we were just speaking before the show, but the direct-to-video era, when they did not have the money or the budgets anymore to do these huge spectacles, your Delta Forces and your Over the Tops and your things like that. And instead they were doing these tiny action movies again, lots of small martial arts movies, small comedies, things like that. So it's been fun. They were so prolific that it really makes it so you're almost writing about several different companies.
Yeah,
different periods and times in film.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that with the first volume, you dedicated it to your dad, who got you into Canon films. So that's a good dad. I think we should dedicate this show to Austin's dad, honestly.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. He brought me up. We would go to the video store, rent movies, and he worked all week. He worked 2 jobs, but the movies he picked would be the first ones we'd watch. The first things into the VCR is ready at the end of his work week, and that could be Invasion USA, that could be Murphy's Law or something that I was probably too young to advisably be watching, but that was how I was introduced to these movies, and it was good. I had a dad who occasionally told me to close my eyes at parts, and that was the censorship. Just cover your eyes. They're getting a little frisky or something there. Not violence. Violence was never an issue,
right?
Of course.
If somebody was taking off their shirt, then it'd be a little bit of caution. Close your eyes for a little bit, son.
Yeah. Okay, you open your eyes again, or just cutting the guy's head off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I bless him. It made me who I am today. I wouldn't be working on these books if it hadn't been for those trips to the video store and being exposed and getting to see the movies that I love still to this day, all these years later.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Future Dead Camper showing some love to Grandpa Mike.
Oh, well, thank you.
Got some more love for Mike in the chat.
Thank you.
So, pizowell is also a grandpa. Not that I know of.
Not rushing into it.
The Legend of Leviathan says, well, that bearded gentleman looks like he could bench an entire alligator carcass.
That's my buddy Tony. Hey, Tony.
Oh, more love for Mike.
Thank you.
Cisco says, frame those posters back there.
Oh,
Mike.
here we
What's
go.
up? We got my buddy Christian in the house tonight. Parker, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Gonna catch the stream later, dropping by to show love to Piz, Mike, and Austin. Thank you for that very much. We appreciate it.
We'll try not to suck, Parker.
We'll try not to. We will. More love for Mike out there.
You swaggy.
So, well, let's go ahead and let's. We're just going to go around the horn here. We're each going to share with you our 5 favorite canon films. Which again, that was an incredibly difficult task to narrow
Sophie's
down.
choice.
I think aside from our top 5, we've got a plethora of honorable mentions, and I'm sure we'll have some overlapping, so things may change, but we'll see how things go. But I am actually going to start things off tonight. I'm going to lead off here because I got two heavy hitters behind me, so all I got to do is lay down the bunt and get on base, and they'll drive me home. I want to mention right off the bat, not only my favorite canon film, my favorite Death Wish film. And if people and everybody who's watching, if you're familiar with my channel, you know my favorite Death Wish is Death Wish 2. Death Wish 2. I love.
We got Charlie Bronson here for the show, Piz.
We got Charlie here with us tonight. He's ready to send some people to Jesus if they don't behave. So, but I love Death Wish 2 because it's still got some of that seriousness of the first Death Wish, but it's definitely canonized and Michael winterized, because if anybody's familiar with him, he was not easy to work with. So you've got that serious social commentary sprinkled in there among the sleaze and the cheese and the extreme violence and so on and so forth. But I love the score from Jimmy Page. Love that music. I love that gritty downtown LA look to the film. I love that there's some nice sort of symbolism in the film too. I love how Winter plays with Bronson's shadow a lot. Mm-hmm. Like how you'll see his shadow sometimes before him, as if, the shadow is usually always much bigger than Bronson, as if, it's Paul Kersey's dark side that's so much bigger. It's consumed normal Paul Kersey. And I love the bad guys. I love that potpourri of the bad guys in that film too, including a young Lawrence Fishburne, which is great. I love the dialogue. One of my favorite, just badass dialogue moments where Kersey notices one of the thugs is wearing a large cross, and he asks him if he believes in Jesus, and the guy's like, "Yes, I do." And Bronson goes, "You're gonna meet him," and blows him away. Love it. And then he's not done. He gives him one more just for the road. One more just for the road. But I love Death Wish 2. Love everything about it. It's one I can watch over and over again. I have watched it a million times. I see some people in the chat who are like, "What about Death Wish 3?" Of course, I love Death Wish 3 too. I love all the Death Wish movies, but Death Wish 2 for me is just it's just so good. So good. So there you go. My favorite canon film and my favorite Death Wish right off the bat. So
that one to me is always one I think of as like sort of one of the quintessential canon films for some reason, because like you pointed out, it's got the seriousness of the first film, but it's also got the canon sleaze element to it that, like sort of that exploitation feel to it. And that was one of those ones the first time I saw it. That was like one of the first times I noticed canon, the logo and everything, the first time we saw it. And I'm like, who are these guys? Like you'd heard about Death Wish, and it was like I was not allowed to see Death Wish. By the time Death Wish 2 came out, Grandma hooked me up. And I have always thought of that one as like when I think of canon films, like at their best, that's always one that pops into my head. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
And it does that very essential canon thing where it is a sequel to a movie that nobody expected or really was clamoring for a sequel for. There was a 8-year gap between Death Wish and Death Wish 2, and it wasn't like there were aborted Death Wish sequels or anything. It was just something that everybody thought the story was done, but not canon, not Menachem Golan. He thought there was more to Paul Kersey's story, and ultimately there'd be much more. There'd be 4 more sequels that Menachem was involved with. 4 sequels that Menachem was involved with. But yeah, you'll see that throughout canon's history. They would do that many more times, sort of resurrect these franchises that people thought were done.
And that was one of their first big hits too, wasn't it?
It was. They took this movie that nobody was really asking for. Canon actually, that's another example of something they did all the time. They advertise movies without really having rights or having permission. They had taken out a Variety ad and several other magazines for a sequel to Death Wish, but they didn't own the film rights to Death Wish. Dino De Laurentiis did, and Dino calls him. He finds out about it, and he has his lawyers. He's like, nobody wants to see this sequel. I don't have any interest in making it. Like he has had his lawyers call up Canon and strong arm him for whatever money they could get because they're infringing on his copyrights. So then they spend $200,000 buying the rights from him, and they're in the hole at that point. And Charles Bronson is like, I thought that story was done. He can ask whatever he wants. He can ask whatever high fee because clearly they can't make that movie without him, especially when he's in the ads. So it's this movie that nobody wanted except for really Menachem, the heads of Canon, but it was a huge hit. It was something he knew. I mean, that Canon knew when the audience would crave something, even when the rest of Hollywood didn't, and it would be something weird like a Death Wish sequel that he would usher into being. And it was a huge hit for them. It was their first really big moneymaker, and people took him seriously after that. They could recruit other big name directors and actors thanks to Death Wish 2.
And Craven, you need to fix that right now. You need to remedy that right now, my friend.
You're in for a treat.
You are in for a major treat. But
it's like Bronson at peak.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Mike. What have you got for us?
Oh, well, I shall go second. All right. I'm going to take the most obvious choice ever for anybody who knows me because I grew up, by the time 1983 came around, I was 11 and America was in the grip of Ninja Mania. And Jesus, I wore out 2 tapes of Revenge of the Ninja. We literally rented Revenge. Funny story. Like my parents would not rent these movies for me. Like getting a VCR, like when you would first go get them and rent them when they first came out, you had to put down the deposit because nobody could afford to pay like $1,500 to own a VCR. And so my parents would go rent these VCRs and they would get movies. And my dad was like, there's no way in hell I'm putting down a deposit on a VCR and renting something called Revenge of the Ninja. He's like, it's not happening. We're getting Firefox and you're going to like it, So we never got Revenge of the Ninja. And then my grandmother comes along and she's like, well, what do you want to see? And I'm like, I want to see Revenge of the Ninja. And it's so funny because I had seen Enter the Ninja before on cable and I always felt like, oh, it was okay. But like, even at 10 or 11 years old, I was not buying Franco Nero as a ninja, right? I was just like, this is like a real tough sell even for a kid. But like Revenge of the Ninja came out and like we got it and I got it home and like I must have watched it 6 times that night. Like we just would watch it and rewind it, watch it, rewind it. And finally my grandmother's like, well, we're just going to dub it for you. We got 2 VCRs, we're going to hook it up, slap one into the other. Sorry, Canon, I stole from you. I'm very sorry. I have bought this film many times over the years though to make up for it. But and I would literally wear that tape out. But like I was talking about this the other day because like we just did a thing on Ninja 3, which I also like to talk about for some reason because it's so weird. But we didn't have superhero movies, and Sho Kosugi, like in my school, was the closest thing to a superhero in movies we had. Like before that, you would argue like, oh, who would win in a fight, Chuck Norris or Bruce Lee? And then Sho Kosugi shows up, and you're like, oh wait, maybe this guy kicks both of their asses, right? So, and many a playground debate was had about who would win in a fight with Sho Kosugi, and he was pretty much undefeated for my whole like, what was that, 4th or 5th grade year, or whatever. But that movie is just like, I still think it's the perfect ninja movie. Everything about it is just right. Like, I don't think we give Sam Furstenberg enough credit as an action film director. And the thing that strikes me in retrospect about Revenge of the Ninja is like, if you look at it now, the action scenes seem kind of quaint, right? They're staged well, but like after you've seen Yen Wu Ping and Hong Kong action cinema and stuff like that, it's a little slow and a little, it's almost quaint how the scenes are set up. But like for that time, if you hadn't watched like a ton of Hong Kong chop socky stuff on Saturday afternoon TV, you had not really seen fight choreography, martial arts wise, quite on that level. Like there's, you get the opening scene where he's catching the arrows and all that with his teeth. And like, oh, that was the moment I was hooked. He catches an arrow with his teeth. You got me for life, right? So, but we get to that, and then you get to the playground fight scene, and then the final showdown on the roof, and it's just like, and we were just ninja nuts. We all wanted to be ninjas, right? So it was just like the perfect movie at the perfect time. And I can still go back and watch it, and it really holds up, which is sort of surprising in its way because it's very much a product of its time too. But yeah, that one is just like, I don't know how anybody who loves canon films doesn't have that one somewhere in their top 5 because it just, and it just like revolutionized ninja cinema. You know, like, and you didn't expect it because if you saw Enter the Ninja, you're like, oh yeah, the Sho Kosugi guy's pretty cool. Franco Nero, I love Franco Nero, but not as a ninja. And Christopher George is great, but it's a weird movie, right? Enter the Ninja is a weird movie.
Christopher George's death in Enter the Ninja
is falling backwards.
So I'm just like totally not expecting this movie to be this amazing at like, you know, even as a kid, and it just blew me away. Like we all had ninja stars, and we were trying to get my parents to like buy me, you know, like split-toed boots, and my mom's like, why do you need split-toed boots? And I'm like, duh, in case I have to climb a rope to get away after performing an assassination. And she's like, who dropped you on your head? You know, like but yeah, that's my top pick, Revenge of the Ninja. Just all the toys, all the stuff he uses in that movie, the shuriken on the belt, like we all wanted that stuff. Like throwing stars were like worth their weight in gold in my neighborhood. Like if you would trade something and you wanted something and you had a throwing star, pretty much anything you wanted could be had for one throwing star. Nunchucks was like owning a Lamborghini.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we really have to give them credit for introducing the West to the whole ninja
for sure
thing. Yeah. I mean, like you said, everybody wanted to be a ninja. And like, you know, all of a sudden there's ninja costumes, there's the ninja throwing stars, there's like the whatever the 3-pronged thing is, you stab people, whatever that's called, a sai, I think. Yeah. So I mean,
we used to buy, like, I would make my parents buy Black Belt magazine or Inside Kung Fu at the grocery store, and like that was like my Christmas catalog in the back, all the places that had like you could call in and order ninja supplies, you know, like, and my parents would never buy me any of it because they're like, we're not buying you claws to climb trees, dude. You're not getting that. Like, you're getting a Nintendo and you're gonna like it. We're not buying you weapons to kill people with. And I'm like, but why?
Well, I think that, and there's another famous canon movie I'm sure we'll talk about very soon that probably, you know, got a lot of people who are now our ages into like martial arts and kung fu and self-defense and, you know what I mean, the black belts and all that kind of stuff. You know, there were a lot of probably, you know, the dojos opened up around the country who benefited greatly from canon.
They spawned a whole cottage industry of martial arts schools, I'm sure.
And Menachem should have opened his own and franchised them.
Yes. A huge missed opportunity for him. I can't believe he wasn't on that. So
Yeah.
That movie is just fantastic. I love that movie to death, and I will never apologize. It's silly, but I will never apologize for loving that movie as much as I do. It was just instrumental in my journey into this career. So
you can't underestimate the influence too that those movies had with Sho Kosugi. One of the things I point out in the books, and I love to point out, is when he did Enter the Ninja, he was there and he brought his bag of like ninja toys and things like that. All the weapons he used in the movies were Sho Kosugi's like personal duffel bags that he would bring to sets, because he was like he was the ninja expert in Los Angeles at the time. But Menachem, I mean, obviously he directed the first one before it. He called it Enter the Ninja. It was clearly just trying to cash in on Enter the Dragon. There's no hiding that there. But he had seen Bruce Lee using nunchucks, and Sho was very, he said, he's like, I'm not going, like, ninjas wouldn't use nunchucks. There's no reason why ninjas would do that. It's not a great stealth weapon. You know, you're swinging it around and you look flashy. That's the last thing. But Menachem insisted, and Sho used that, and those movies became the sort of template for what ninjas in pop culture and video games, comic books, and other movies, other ninja movies, the hundreds of them that came in the 80s. And the reason why Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles has nunchucks is because Sho Kosugi had them in Enter the Ninja, because Menachem Golan insisted that he used them. And that tells you exactly right there how, because it's become part of the ninja arsenal, and it's because of those films. But I'm glad you mentioned Revenge of the Ninja, because that's actually my number one. If somebody held a gun to my head and forced me,
mine too.
I'm glad you mentioned it, so I don't have to. But so this tape, like I talk about the video store, this cover and this gigantic box this was in, some of my earliest any movie related memories going to the video store. The action section was one wall, and the martial arts movies were towards the bottom. You had up on the top, you had your Chucks, your Charles, your Clint Eastwood, your Stallone and Schwarzenegger and things like that, all the sort of A and B list actors. But on the bottom, you'd have the martial arts. That's kind of where they put them. But that was kids' eye level. That was my eye level as a kid. And every time waiting for the register to check out our movies, I would stare at this box, and it just burned its way to my head until I finally saw it many years later. But it's definitely
amazing box art.
It's a ninja. He's either flying or dropped out of a helicopter. He's like way up in the sky above Salt Lake City. He's got 3 ninja stars flying at the same time. He's firing a gun. It's just everything about it is cool. It's ridiculous if you look at it too long, but it's just an amazing image, and you gotta love it.
Well, everybody knows ninjas can fly.
Right. That one and the other one that always stuck out to me from that same period that I always remember seeing is Jim Cotta, because you've got the guy in the white jumpsuit and he's kicking 2 ninjas in the face, and like they're sort of similar, and those were always the 2 as a kid. They were the forbidden fruit. My parents were never going to rent me until I got to grandma. So yeah, that one is a classic. I love that movie to death.
Such a good pick.
Yeah.
Another personal favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's when I knew I'm like, somebody's going to pick this. I'll keep it here just in case, but it's going to go. Yeah, it's going to be mentioned soon.
That's probably not the only ninja movie we'll be discussing.
Probably not.
Tonight. Yeah.
No.
There'll be more ninja. There'll be more ninja representation. We promise. Yes. Don't worry. The next movie I'm going to pick is one that is very near and dear to my heart.
Are we skipping Austin?
I thought Austin just picked.
I'm sorry. I piggybacked. I stole it because
I'm sorry.
It's my number one favorite movie.
I'm sorry.
I'm super excited to see what Austin's bringing.
I apologize, Austin.
Okay.
For some reason, I zoned out.
It because I can reach into one of my backups that I wanted to talk about. Go for it. We've already talked about.
Go for it.
We have. So it's another movie we're all looking. We've all mentioned very early canon movies at this point. One of the beginning of the Golden Globus era. Menachem Golan directorial effort himself, but 1980s The Apple. It is the only post-apocalyptic sci-fi disco musical that
Only
there
one,
is.
really?
I think so. I mean, there's more out there, but it's the best of its kind. I'll say it's the best post-apocalyptic sci-fi disco musical, but biblical themed. I don't know if I forgot that, but yeah. So this is a movie that is hard to do justice because it is just so weird. It was directed by one of the two cousins who ran Canon Films, and this was a movie that he thought was going to be Saturday Night Fever. This was going to be he knew this was going to be a huge hit, and it was the first movie they really came out of the gates with. And it's I mean, really the story, trying to sum it up, it's this young Canadian couple, the boyfriend, girlfriend, singer, songwriter group, and they go on sort of what's Eurovision, like basically a made up version of Eurovision. And the rest of the music industry, the entire music industry, is run by this Mr. Boogaloo, who is this devil-like character, very thinly veiled, stand-in for the devil. And he basically signs just he gets BB to sign us on a contract, the girl. And it's basically this whole sort of story about her descent into the literal hell that is the music industry. You've got vampires and demons dancing through scenes. It's a movie that is so, the symbolism is so poorly veiled that it's all just, there's no subtext. It's all just right on the surface. And there are some amazing songs. There is a song called Speed, which is obviously about speed, like drugs. They don't say it. There's a song called I'm Coming. And
I wonder what that one's about.
Yeah.
It's saying it now, it's very clear what it's about, but watching it, there's people doing this like Bubsy Berkeley like choreographed like dry humping on screen, and in this like sort of a kaleidoscope way of filming. It was an extremely expensive movie. They shot it in Germany. They tried to make Germany stand in for New York City. They actually shot a lot of it in the theater from Demons, the
Metropole.
Yeah, the Metropole. And so like a lot of the music scenes were shot in that same sort of the location. And it's just wild. It's a weird movie. If anybody's curious, I would just go on and just watch one or two songs from the Apple, because it is weird. And there's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it.
Has that one ever had a disc release? Because I have never seen it. I've heard about it for years, but I have never seen it.
Yeah, Kino Lorber, I think, still has one imprint.
I think it is on Tubi, and I'm adding it to my list right now.
Oh, there we go.
Say about half of these we'll probably talk about tonight are probably on Tubi. God bless Tubi.
God bless Tubi. God bless it. God bless. Yeah. Thank you, Francis. But the Apple, I mean, that's, subtlety was not Golan and Globus's thing. You know what I mean? They were more about just being really upfront. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I appreciate that. Don't beat around the bush. Just tell me what's on your mind.
Right. I'm not here for the art film stuff. I'm here for the crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, geez. Good pick. I was aware of the Apple. Now I'm going to watch it. It's on my list. It is on Tubi. You guys go and add it to your list for sure.
This is why we have Austin here, because I'm going to be basic canon guy. He's going to bring the deep cuts.
He's going with the deep cuts. There we go.
There's a couple that I just so dear to my heart. And that's one I discovered while working on this project. It's awesome. And just grows to the top of my favorites list.
The wardrobe in that film rocks, according to Toronto Freddy. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah,
for sure.
That just shot up to the top of the list for tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Some light watching.
Yeah.
So, but now I will throw out my pick. I apologize. I jumped ahead. I zoned out there. I thought we'd gone around the circle.
It's exciting.
It is. I'm excited. I know. I'm happy. But my next pick is a movie that's very near and dear to my heart. I rented it a lot growing up. It was constantly on cable television. I loved the animated series. I had a ton of the figures. I'm talking about Masters of the Universe. And I actually went back and rewatched Masters of the Universe on Tubi, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, just for the hell of it, because I saw it on there and I was like, memory lane, here I come. And it is, again, it's another one of those movies, like you can tell they spent a lot of money on this movie, like probably more than they should have. But I mean, this was, you got to keep in mind, the Masters of the Universe cartoon was like a big deal, and the merchandise was huge. So when I saw, like, holy crap, it's not Anna, it's like a lie. It's real. It's people. It's the guy from Rocky. It's the guy. He's He-Man. Oh my God. It blew my freaking mind. And it's I mean, what can you say about Masters of the Universe? It's Frank Langella as Skeletor.
That's the one. Like, I still go, like, how the hell did they get him to play Skeletor?
Wasn't it because his son or his grandson was
that why? Yeah. That's
like,
wild.
And I heard this I don't know if this is true or not, but Frank Langella said he loved it. He loved being Skeletor. He loved the movie. And if I might be mistaken, but that was the first movie too, where I don't remember if I just watched it to the end or if like I just somehow knew there was going to be something at the end. But like I remember watching it for the first time to the very end after the post credits. My very first post credit scene where he pops up out of the pink lemonade or whatever it is down there. He's like, I'll be back. And unfortunately, he wasn't.
He was not.
I think there were plans for a sequel that unfortunately didn't happen because it tanked pretty hard. So, but I love it. Great cast. I mean, you've got a young Courtney Cox there. You've got what's the lady's name who played Evil Lynn? Meg Foster. Yeah. Of course, Dolph Lundgren, and a lot of people like kind of make fun of Dolph Lundgren's performance in it. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. Like I heard.
Let's be honest about the source material there. Like, what's he got to work with? I mean, the guy's a muscle-bound barbarian.
He's not quoting like Poe or something like that. Yeah. I think the most dialogue he had the whole movie was "I have the power." You know what I mean? So, but it's funny. Like there's a story of Stallone came to the set, and he was laughing about Dolph Lundgren having the lead because he said something like, "You're giving this guy lines." And now I love Stallone, but you're not always on par yourself, bro. You know what I mean? I've seen some pretty, I've seen you sleepwalking through a few movies yourself. Anyway,
we gotta stick up for Dolph, man.
He
deserves better.
Not messing with Dolph, not around me. But yeah, I just love it. I love that movie to death. And what kind of got me about it this second time around was like, it's actually pretty violent. It's for like a kid's movie. It was actually kind of violent, kind of dark, really, in a few spots. And I don't know. I love that movie to death. I can watch it anytime. Masters of the Universe, freaking love it. Love it.
It's funny because the first time I saw it, I was a kid. And I was super hyped because I had all the toys. I had Castle Grayskull. I had, Battle Cat. I used to put the guys on the top of Castle Grayskull and had the battering ram thing that shot missiles on them. I could kill hours just shooting my action figures off the top of the Castle Grayskull with this thing. And so I remember like it was like a life lesson for me that like sometimes Hollywood is going to take things you love and mess them up. And young me was like not happy with it because I wanted the He-Man in my brain, from like the little comic books that came with the action figures and stuff like that. And now when I go back to it, I love it because it's just so batshit insane. And like none of it makes sense in the mythology like they'd established for these characters when the figures came out or anything. But like as its own weird thing, it's just so weird and wild and like it just appeals to my inner like weird cinema geek because you literally look at it, you go, how did they get from these action figures to this? But yeah, I wish I had all my Masters of the Universe toys too. My mom made me sell them for like $20. That and a bunch of my Star Wars stuff. Some kid got it all for like $20, and I hate that kid's guts to this day. So
yeah, I had a very similar experience to Mike with Master Universe, because I knew the cartoon, but I got excited to see the live action movie, and I remember seeing it at that age and being kind of upset because where's Orko, where's Battle Cat, where are these characters and like elements that I know from the cartoon, because it takes a very big departure, but it's one that as I got older and saw again later on, I would appreciate it more and more.
It's just so weird. And I can never hold that again. Like, that's what's so fascinating about it to me, is like I'm just like endlessly intrigued by like what went on in those meetings when they conceptualized this. Like, we know what this thing is because we've got the rights to it, but we're gonna just do something totally different with it and hope for the best.
And it was something that was in the works for a long time. The movie actually originated with Ed Pressman, who was producer of the Conan the Barbarian movies and so many others, and Mattel, and he was producing this for them, and he shopped it around to studios. This was like 5 years before Canon made the film, back when He-Man was first blowing up, but studios were not interested in a movie based on a toy, which is funny to think now,
right?
As some of the biggest movies of the summer all have based on toy lines, but yeah, nobody wanted it, so it finally came down to Canon and another studio, and Canon lowballed them, but it was slightly higher than the other one, and so Mattel went with Canon, and unfortunately Canon ran out of money while they were making it, and there was originally a bigger ending and more things that were supposed to happen there that kind of got truncated, but thankfully they had some great people working on that and kind of found ways to work around the stuff, the footage they couldn't get, and we got a satisfying ending, and we do get the nice tease for the sequel that never came to be.
Yeah,
I'm still hoping.
Fingers are the big showdown at the end between Skeletor and He-Man takes place in like a little room with like black curtains around them.
With color wheels and some flashing lights.
Yeah, that's it. That's all they had money for. So they were like, let's just get this thing over with. But thank you, Ghost, for the $5 super chat. The Apple is definitely in my top canon list, along with Death Wish 3, Bracken 2, Ninja 3. Get Austin's books; they're great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ghost. I just pinned both links to Austin's books in the chat. So
thank you, everybody.
And Christian's got a 27x40 poster of Masters. There you go.
That's
a nice one. I've never seen one of those in the wild. So
very nice.
Awesome.
Very nice. And I think most people probably know this. Another very famous, very beloved canon film started out as Masters of the Universe 2. I'm sure we'll probably talk about it before the night is over as well. But it evolved into something else. So, anywho, Mike, what have you got for us?
All right, Charlie Bronson's about to make a second appearance on the show tonight, because how can you talk about canon without talking about Charles Bronson, right? My pick is the wildly sleazy serial killer slasher film 10 to Midnight, which I just frigging adore. I first saw this back again with grandma, because my parents would have shit a brick if they knew 10 to Midnight. But we had like a double feature. We had The Evil That Men Do and then 10 to Midnight. And I like The Evil That Men Do, but when we got to 10 to Midnight and like he starts off and I'm like, and even young, I'm like, this is like the Richard Speck murders, right? Like he's killing the nurses in the beginning. And I'm like, wait, is this like a biopic or what? And then Bronson shows up, and it's definitely not a biopic. It's just very loosely inspired by some killings. But Bronson is so great in it. Like, he's the grizzled cop on the case, and this guy's outsmarting him at every turn because he's this rich, yuppie kind of killer guy. And he's like a nut, but and Bronson's like thinks he's got him, and then he has to frame him, and he gets in trouble for framing him, and he gets away, and and then you get to the I will never not crack up at the scene where he has the interrogation and the toy comes out and he's like, it's for jerking off.
And that thing does not look pleasurable in any way.
I was like what? Well, I must have been like 13 or 14 at the time, probably, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then you get to the end, and it's got that great ending, and like it's just such a wildly sleazy movie that, and I just like, even as a kid, I liked that stuff for some reason. And that one has stuck with me forever. Like that was one, as soon as it started, like, oh, we got like slasher type killings and nudity and all that right out of the gate. And then we got Charles Bronson too. I'm like, somebody made this movie for me. But yeah, it's just like, I'm glad to find that people have come to appreciate it in recent years. Like, now it's got a Blu-ray and all that, because for a long time I would talk about that movie to people, and only my friends who were like real 80s film, exploitation geeks and stuff like that would actually were familiar with it. And I always felt like, man, more people need to see this movie. And like, whenever I met somebody who had seen it, we all loved it. We're all like, oh, this is like Bronson, peak Bronson, like, and so it's nice now that people have discovered it, because I just think it's just one of those movies that's like, man, I can't even imagine them trying to make that today. First off,
oh God, no. God, no.
Like,
God, no.
people would have a cow, but it's like so perfect for its era. Just like, it's got the slasher, it's got the police procedural, it's got the serial killer thing. It's like, it ticks all the boxes for me. So I just love it.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, and he goes to the movies, he sets up his alibi. I was like, this guy's actually
smart.
This is smart. Somebody put some thought into this one, at least, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And that's what I like about it, is that he's smart, but he's not like one of those Hannibal Lecter types where he's like ridiculously super genius. This guy's just cunning, kind of like, I always think of him like Brian Cox in Manhunter, who I'm always like, oh, that's the better Hannibal Lecter to me, because he's more feral and cunning and stuff like that. And Hopkins is always kind of over the top and cheesy to me, which I know everybody gets mad at me for saying that, but that's just how I feel. But and like, for that character reminds me of, like, he's got that sort of like, I'm cunning and evil and I'm smart, but I'm not like a super genius. So it's like a fair match. But yeah, it's just really well done. And I forget that actor's name, but he does not get enough credit for that role.
He was in a number of Bronson movies.
Yes.
Had a small role.
Yeah. Gene Davis.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
That's him. Yeah, great. Totally underrated in that film. Like, just a great villain.
That's a movie that's had some very nice Blu-ray editions. There's still, I'm still hoping someday there's a cut of that movie where, obviously he does all the killings naked. There's a lot of Gene Davis running around naked on.
Yeah, he had no problem with the nudity.
No, but Canon they knew that they had to edit it in some way to have it for TV and for certain regions where they couldn't show that, countries. And so every take in that film he did in the nude, but he also did a version in underwear. So there is a version of 10 to Midnight out there that is just like the underwear cut. It's the same movie, which is so I'd love to see that resurrected somewhere on a disc someday, or if somebody taped it off of the movie channel or something in the 80s, somebody finds that tape and throws it up on YouTube, or even scenes. I would love to see that. The underwear cut of 10 to Midnight.
The underwear cut.
Exactly. Yeah.
We got to get Vinegar Syndrome or somebody on this tracking this down. Where's Brad Henderson tonight?
He's actually gonna be on the show next week. So I'll ask him.
Oh, see, tell him we have a request. I want Spider. I want him to find Spider Labyrinth for me and the underwear cut of 10 to Midnight.
The edition will come inside a pair of underwear.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of a slipcase,
unwraps the DVD.
Something I like about 10 to Midnight too is, like, Bronson's not a perfect hero in the movie at all. He's very flawed. He's deeply flawed. And I love the ending. I love that ending.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like I kind of also want to know like what happened next, because like
Right.
that was kind of murder, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, like that was murder.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
will any court convict him? But
Right.
you know what I mean? That was murder in front of the world. But
Mhm.
I do love that ending and just how it ends on, yeah, great freaking movie, awesome freaking movie. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think a little, there's more to it than I think people
Mhm.
would expect going in the first time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a much smarter film than you would sort of anticipate just from reading the back cover. And just like, like, oh, Bronson's in it, he's gonna be a cop, he's gonna be a badass, blah blah. He's gonna hunt down a killer. But there is. He's very flawed. He has the strained relationship with his daughter. This guy's outsmarting him, and rather than just come up with a genius plan to catch him, he ends up framing the guy and he gets busted for like there's a lot of like stuff you would not expect to find in one of those kind of movies that's sort of, Blake Snyder save the cat method of plotting things. They really kind of subvert your expectations at different points, which has always been interesting to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you, Madbull876 for the $5. Thank you for the Canon Film Chat. At 54, I grew up loving most of these movies.
Most.
Thank you, Madbull. Appreciate that. I'm sure 10 to Midnight was on that most list, I'm sure.
It has to be.
Oh yeah. But great pick. Yeah, 10 to Midnight. Yeah, it does have I know Scream Factory, I think, put out the last release of Blu-ray release
Yeah,
for it.
that's the one I
Nice
have
edition.
now.
Yeah.
Very nice edition. Very good commentary with Paul Talbot, who wrote the Bronson's on the Loose books. Those are great too. If you're a Bronson fan, great stuff.
Yeah, he's been doing some amazing commentaries for so many of the Bronson movies that have been released recently from several different companies. I love hearing those.
Oh yeah. Something that's on my bucket list. Everybody who's familiar with my channel, they know how much I love Bronson. It's on my bucket list. The pilgrimage to Vermont to visit the man's grave.
Visit the grave.
It'll happen someday. It'll happen someday. Anyway, Austin, go ahead. What do you got for us?
All right. Well, but again, this was so hard. I've got a bunch to choose from here, but we've talked twice now about Canon, Chuck Bronson. We got to talk about their other major Chuck. He hasn't been represented here yet, and you could pick any one of his movies. There are a lot of good ones, but my personal favorite, my favorite Chuck Norris Canon movie, Invasion USA.
Yeah,
it is very much a Red Dawn sort of situation, but Richard Lynch plays a great sort of non-specific terrorist, but decides to get all the terrorists and everyone in the world who dislikes America to get them all to team up and work for him and attack America at the same time. And they invade. And the whole movie is this invasion is supposed to be happening, but we only see Atlanta and Miami because those are the two places they filmed. And it's basically every step along the way is terrorist attack somewhere random. It can be, a shopping mall, a restaurant, a hotel. And then suddenly Chuck Norris shows up. And he has this almost like Michael Myers like quality to him in that one. He's the good guy. He's just suddenly behind them. Like it's all bad guys. And suddenly a door, Chuck Norris. So he looks up to the roof and Chuck Norris is on the roof tossing a bomb down at him. And it's kind of a magical, what happened with this movie is there was more of a story framing it. They had another character who was kind of describing the action, sort of a news reporter who was describing what happens every step of the way. And they filmed the movie and they got to the editing room and they didn't really like her performance. So they just removed all of it. But they basically removed all of the connective tissue that explains how Chuck knows where the bad guys are, why he's showing up to these places. So it's just this beautiful stuff happens in this film that it just cuts out all the fat. Like, unfortunately, that is the central plot, but instead we just get Chuck Norris doing awesome Chuck Norris stuff, kicking people, hanging off the side of a pickup truck with an Uzi, like blasting bad guys while he's crashing through the front of a mall. and Invasion USA is another great example of something Canon would do. They would go and they rewrite the movie as they went. And one of these things, right before they started shooting, as they were scouting the locations, they found a little cul-de-sac, this little 80s like suburb that was being demolished. For the Atlanta airport to expand it, and all the homes had been bought, but people had been living in them 2 weeks ago. So these look like real homes, and rather than building facades, building houses, Cannon blew up a real Atlanta suburb with like real explosives, and it's this chilling, amazing scene. It's production value because these houses were going to be demolished anyway, and they wrote the scene around it. There's a mall that they shoot at in Atlanta, and it was a mall that was gutted for renovations. They were going to like clean this whole place out. So Cannon got there and they wrote a scene, the shootout that takes place in a mall, and they were able to blow up storefronts, blow out windows, have a truck, crashing through everything. And this was a location that was a real location that they get to destroy. And it's a movie that it's made on a Cannon budget, but the production value looks like a studio film just because they found amazing ways to really get that extra production value out of stuff like that.
Yeah, and now they would just CGI all of that, which would suck.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's amazing that they would find these places and actually just blow them up.
They got very lucky. Right time, right place to blow up an entire suburb for a movie.
I'm a sucker for anything with Richard Lynch in it, so I've always loved Invasion USA. And then you've got Joe Zito involved in it as well, which is like it's just like when that one came out, it was like ticking all the boxes for me. Like as a kid, I'm like, oh wait, I like Richard Lynch, and this Joe Zito guy is like a Friday the 13th guy. I'm interested. And then Chuck on top of it, like how could you not? Like we were in line day one for that one. So, and it is aged well. I just watched it, like a couple months ago, and it holds up well. Like you said, it's funny how he kind of teleports. I never thought of it as Michael Myers, but that's actually the most perfect description of it I've ever heard. Like a heroic Michael Myers just kind of pops in everywhere, wherever there's trouble. And I did not know that about them taking out the connective sort of tissue. You feel like something's missing there, that there's some way he has to know where these guys are, but I'm like, I don't even care. It's Chuck and Richard Lynch, man. Let them do whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Just let them run wild.
I don't even need a story. Just let them fight.
You're here for the spectacle of it all.
Exactly.
But here's how great Cannon was. Their two go-to actors were Charles Bronson and Chuck Norris. I love the quote. I don't remember. It's on the Electric Boogaloo documentary where they were like, if somebody wrote them a Hamlet, they'd go, okay, which Chuck is it going to? Which Chuck is going to play Hamlet? You know what I mean? So it's either going to be Bronson or Norris. So and now, if only that movie had happened. Could you imagine? Oh,
Cannon's Hamlet.
With Bronson as Hamlet. You know what I mean? Come on, jeez.
I'm just there for the monologues.
If only. But I'm sure that's not the only Chuck Norris movie that will be discussed during the course of tonight's proceedings. But I'm gonna have to add that one to my list and rewatch it. I've not seen that one in a long time. But yeah, Richard Lynch, Chuck Norris, Joe Zito.
Yeah, it's good names.
What more do you need?
Yeah. Exactly.
If you do what we do and you see those three names and you don't watch it, we kick you out. You're done.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I spot narcs.
What's your favorite part of Invasion USA? You're done. Bye-bye. Yeah. Or they're like Richard Lynch. Bye. Oh goodness. My pick. This is a Cannon movie that had an enormous budget that looked like a big studio movie. The content was not big studio movie appropriate though, and I'm talking about Tobe Hooper's Lifeforce. Now, Mike and I were talking about Lifeforce earlier today, and Mike said something to the effect of, I have no idea what the plot of that movie is, to which I replied, I don't either. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Space vampires and Matilda May naked. That's all I know.
Yes. The people making that, if you would have asked Toby Hooper, what's the plot of this movie? Toby went, I don't know. You know what I mean? Space vampires who they don't drink your blood, they suck your life force from you. They turning you into this withered husk that then reanimates and comes after you and tries to suck your life force to turn you into a withered husk. Off the charts, and just outrageousness. Again, Matilda May is naked for 90. I think she's naked the entire movie. Yeah, I don't think she wears a stitch of clothing the entire movie. She's just walking around naked the entire movie. She's trying to find, of all people, Steve Railsback, which I don't know about you guys, but that gave me hope that, like, okay, average looking guy, incredibly.
Matilda May is looking for him.
Exactly.
Shot.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for Matilda though. I think she's on her way. She's just moving very slowly. It's kind of like it's like it follows. She'll get here eventually. Crazy over the top special effects, huge just cast. I mean, awesome cast. I mean, Patrick Stewart's in the film. Yeah. Special effects heavy. Like they dumped a ton of money into this movie expecting it to be like a huge summer blockbuster. And I don't think they even read this. Was there a script? I don't know. But the production values are off the charts. The makeup effects, the look of the withered corpse things are phenomenal. A lot of really talented people worked on the film, clearly, including Hooper. I mean, it's just, it's everything that you would come to out of a Tobe Hooper movie as far as visually and aesthetically. And it's batshit crazy. And I love every second of it.
But if you held a gun to my head and asked me to explain the plot to you, I'm dead.
Yeah. All I can tell you is, again, like you said, space vampires. They suck your life force out of you. Beautiful
Matilda
woman
May naked.
Yeah, the whole time.
It really is an 80s sci-fi dream team working on that one too. You look at the names and you have Tobe Hooper, you have Dan O'Bannon, Alien, writing the script. You had John Dykstra doing the effects, who from Star Wars and so many other things. Nick Maley does all those amazing zombie. All the effects were done by Nick Maley, who did the Cantina Band and worked on Yoda and worked on the Star Wars movies. You have Henry Mancini doing this score, which he's doing a score for space vampires. Like, who would have ever imagined there? But it's so much talent working on that film. And even if it doesn't make sense, everything on screen is it's amazing looking, and some of the really great, incredible practical effects in that film. Between the monster, like there's one particular transformation sequence where you really get to see the first like life force get drained, and it was this animatronic that it takes something like 26 puppeteers to operate or something. One of the most complicated animatronic puppets they'd ever seen on screen. And then it's got beautiful painted sets and things like that. Everything that happens in the beginning are all the matte paintings in the background of this space. It's just gorgeous.
I love a good matte painting.
Yeah. That just got a 4K release last year, I think, from Shout. They upgraded it. It's beautiful, beautiful movie. One of the Canon movies that really, really deserves that sort of beautiful presentation.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I get asked to cover that on the show at least 3 times a month, and I'm like, dude, she's naked the whole movie. What am I going to show? They already hate me on this platform. What am I possibly going to show it from this movie to do a video about it? So, but I wish I could.
Canon.
No clips. Just
nobody wants to look at my head for 20 minutes. So.
Canon, they would market it as, they would call it the Star Wars of the 1980s. That's what they expected out of it. Never mind that the 80s had 2 Star Wars movies.
Two Star Wars already.
Before that even came out.
Mm.
But they really had hoped that this movie where the Darth Vader figure in this film is a young naked woman. Like, I don't know how they thought that this was going to be this big popular hit that they kind of anticipated was they were pouring the money into it, but I'm glad they did.
Yeah.
A lot of
Only in the 80s. Only
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Austin? I cut you off.
Oh, I was saying Menachem Golan, Golden Globus were some of the only people that would spend so little time thinking about what they were spending the money on before they saw the final product. And that's how something like Lifeforce comes about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness they didn't give anything a second thought.
Right.
Thank goodness. Maybe they would have put more money into it if they gave it a second
Right.
thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You imagine?
I'm guessing there's no underwear cut of that with Matilda
No.
to save my channel.
I have seen the movie on cable television though, and I mean they cut around it really well.
Do they? Jay would kill me. Jay would quit. my editor. He'd be like, I'm out.
There's probably the TV cut is like you watch the credits and you're like, wait a minute, Matilda May was in this where?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing her in this movie. Where? Huh?
Not a very awkward crops, like very, very tight crops.
Very, very tight. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Oh God. But Lifeforce, if you haven't seen Lifeforce,
Yes.
See Lifeforce.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So
Absolutely.
Mike, what do you got for us?
All right. Let's go back to Chuck Norris land. Yeah. So this is really tough for me because I knew somebody would get Invasion USA, and then I had 2 other Chuck Norris movies, and I wasn't sure which one I was gonna go with. So I'm just gonna pick one, and if we don't get to the other, I'll hit it in the honorable mentions. But my pick for this round is Delta Force, which was pretty much later in the canon cycle, I believe. But what has always stood out, the reason I've always liked Delta Force is less because of Chuck, but more because they got friggin' Lee Marvin to be in it. And I'm just like, Bronson and Lee Marvin, Dirty Dozen, like I'm always like, they just don't make movie stars like those guys anymore.
No.
Those guys would look at the action heroes today and just crack up that these guys are, carrying the mantle of what they started. And to see Lee Marvin in a canon movie in his last role before his untimely passing is just like, it will always have this big soft spot in my heart, even though the movie is not particularly great. Like it's okay. Like I think it's good when they do, like in the open. If you've never seen it, I should explain this. I am terrible at this job. You never know as a film critic, right? But it's about Delta Force goes in because a plane has been hijacked and they take it to I believe it's Beirut, and they're separating the passengers according to like they've got the Jewish passengers separate, obviously, and then they take them off the plane and they bring in like actual fake passengers who are more terrorists and stuff like that. Delta Force comes in and they blow it, and then after that it kind of changes into they're off the plane, and I like it less when they're off the plane. I like the first half of the movie when they're like they've got the people on the plane and they're trying to deal with all that stuff a little bit more, and then by the second half it kind of becomes like a more standard sort of military action movie type thing, which is still good. I mean, you've got Chuck Norris kicking ass, and you've got like an uncredited Liam Neeson's in there somewhere, and and it's good, but like for me, it's like Lee Marvin, and as I understand it, they actually wanted Bronson for that role, and he had a scheduling conflict or something and couldn't do it. So I'm like, well, I guess if you're gonna have to replace Bronson, Lee Marvin's a pretty good, not a bad second choice, right?
Yeah. not a bad second choice. Yeah.
And like the sequels, I like even less for some reason. Like I've seen them all. I don't care for them as much, but the first one, I don't know, it just hit like at that time, and I just remember like you see it, and that was a time when planes were, like hijackings were a thing, more common in the news, and. I was always be like, you'd always be a little nervous getting on a plane, like, cause you're a dumb American kid, right? You're like, what are the odds I'm going to get hijacked flying to Pittsburgh? But you just never know. Right. And so, you get on the plane and you're like, well, if this goes wrong, they'll send Chuck Norris and Lee Marvin in to save me at least. So, that's my pick. It's not canon's finest hour, but they got Lee Marvin in a canon movie, and I think we have to admire that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is really a movie, almost two movies stuck together. For
Yes.
Cannon, it's a long runtime. Cannon was very
Yes.
big. Menachem he liked movies to be 94 minutes or shorter because
Mhm.
he had figured out that was what you could squeeze one more screening
One more
into
screening. Yep.
a regular day. So
Mhm.
it was, you get movies like John Cassavetes would shoot a movie for him that was 3 hours long, and Cannon would cut it down to 94 minutes. And no matter what it was, but Delta Force was directed by the boss, Menachem Golan.
Mhm.
And so he gave himself some leniency. So it's like 130 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it's a
very
long Cannon movie.
long Cannon movie, but it ends up being almost two movies smushed
Mhm.
together, because you have the first half is this hijacking, and it's almost like a disaster film. And you get a lot of these
Mhm.
George Kennedy and people
You got George Cat. Yep.
who
You
are
got people
on
from
the
the disaster
plane.
films in there. Yep.
Yeah, and it ends up being this movie that was based on an actual hijacking that had just happened then, and was inspired by it, and very different, like riveting kind of drama. You have Robert Forster as the main terrorist bad guy, and you get some great performances there. And then the second half of the movie, you get Chuck Norris, Lee Marvin, and Steve James just like riding around on motorcycles, blowing things up with rocket launchers, like doing, like, having a big like a plane, like a rescue on a plane, and it's cool. It's something that you sit down, you watch one movie, and then you finish watching an entirely different movie, and they come together in this just sort of like awesome way.
It always reminds me of From Dusk Till Dawn, and how From Dusk Till Dawn starts one way, and about halfway through it turns into something else entirely, and then by the end it kind of comes back together. And that's how I always kind of think of Delta Force, is like, I really like this first part. The second part, I'm like, it's pretty good. And then at the end, it's like, oh yeah, it's good. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
one.
good pick. Yep, that's definitely a good one. Another good Norris.
it's hard to pick a bad one here, honestly.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
What have you got for us, Austin?
All right. Well, this is one that I think has to be mentioned by one of us. I'll take it, because it is such a good movie. And it's a movie that was one of Cannon's rare awards contenders. It's a movie that got critical praise across the board. It had 3 Oscar nominations, and that is 1985's Runaway Train. It is
a great pick.
such a good movie, made by Andrei Konchalovsky, based on a 250-page script by Akira Kurosawa. That's just, that background is amazing. But you have John Voight and Eric Roberts, really, and when Eric Roberts was still his like this rising actor, somebody who was this great young next Brando or something. And he really, when he's hitting that sort of crest before he disappeared for a while. And it's got Rebecca De Mornay right after Risky Business. And the plot of the movie is that these two guys they escape from jail. John Voight's this hardened criminal, and Eric Roberts who's busted out of jail a bunch of times. Eric Roberts is another prisoner who sort of like tags along on his escape, finds out about it, and sort of forces his way into it. And they get on this train. They basically escape this prison is out in Alaska, and they escape into the elements. And there's a bit of a survival story there for a while, but then they finally get on this train. And not to spoil anything, but I mean, the title gives it away. The train gets loose, and they can't stop it. So you have the warden working with the police trying to catch these escaped dangerous criminals. And you have these two guys on this train who have Rebecca De Mornay, who plays a railway worker who's kind of trapped on there with them. And this train is going faster and faster, and it's plowing through buildings and rails. And it's just trying to prevent it from not only catch these guys, but prevent it from like killing lots of people, or this giant railroad disaster. And it's just a very riveting film. It was mostly shot in Alaska, so it's got these sort of gorgeous helicopter shots going over the snow with the train just like busting through ice. And you got the guys having to perform, like they got all these stunts just have to try to stop things, to climb from car to car from the outside of the speeding car. It's a great film, great nail biting kind of thriller. And yeah, so Voight and Roberts both got Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor nominations, and it got Best Editing nomination. Didn't win any of them, but it was something that this came the same year that Canon made Death Wish 3 and Invasion USA and American Ninja. And it was this very different side because you have these successful action movies doing great money at the box office, but then they have also something that is critically successful. So they got their suits on, they got to go to the Oscars. They didn't get to take one home, but it's just to the two sides of the company. And this is when they tried to do something that was serious, I guess, something that was just to break away from the action films that they were known for. I think that's one of the better examples of them actually succeeding at that sort of thing.
Yeah. Runaway Train is also on Tubi. I just added it to my list because I need to rewatch it. It's been several years, but we were talking about some legitimately good Canon films before we went live, and that was the very first one that came to my mind. Could you imagine if Menachem Golan's acceptance speech
for an
if he'd
Oscar?
won? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Best picture, Menachem Golan.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have been plastered in every ad for forever.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that speech would be a popular YouTube viral clip. People would be watching it till today.
He would have flanked himself with Bronson and Norris walking up there and accepting and
You know what's funny is the first time I saw it, I didn't believe it was a Canon film. I was like, this is too good. Like the cinematography of it, like you said, the shots of it, the aerial shots and the train and the snow, and I'm like, this isn't a Canon film. Who put this out?
There are two movies that I can watch in the middle of now, in July, where we're going through a heat wave, and it'll make me feel cold. I'll want to get a blanket. And Runaway Train is one, and The Thing is the other. Those are the two movies I can throw them on. It could be 90 degrees in my basement, and I will be reaching for a sweater or a hoodie or something because those movies just make me cold watching them.
Oh yeah. Great pick. Definitely. If you've not seen Runaway Train, watch it. It's on Tubi. Has it gotten a good physical media release? Do we know?
Yeah, Kino did a good one.
Kino.
With Eric Roberts on the commentary.
Okay, cool. We'll have to look into that as well. Yeah. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Yeah, I know. I've got still a dozen movies.
So many to go
still.
I'm stunned at some of the things that haven't come up yet.
So
I
know it is. Yeah. So my next pick is another Canon film that was up for, I don't know if it was up for Oscar consideration, but I think it's considered one of the higher brow Canon films. It's Barfly. I was trying to think of a funny segue into Barfly, but I was like, it's Barfly. You know what I mean? It's Barfly.
Yeah. Oh.
And I remember watching Barfly for the first time. And at that point, I'd only seen Mickey Rourke's kind of tough guy, I'm super cool, charismatic Mickey Rourke, you know what I mean? And seeing him play Charles Bukowski, one, that's such a weird casting choice. Mickey Rourke as the Charles Bukowski kind of character. But he's so freaking good. So good. And it's just a great movie. I think it's one of those kind of underdog story movies, and he's you look at him and you go, this guy's a bum, this guy's like a cretin, this guy's a drunk, but he writes his little poems and you say, oh well, this guy's he's a warrior poet because he's always fist fighting people, and you know what I mean. He's who's the guy he's always fist fighting in the movie? The bartender guy,
Frank Stallone.
Frank Stallone. Why did I forget Frank freaking Stallone? But yeah, great cast too, all around. I love Barfly. I used to always, before, if I was with friends and we were drinking, I'd be like, I want for my friends. But yeah, great movie, great performance from Mickey Rourke. One of his, I think his best performance. I mean, he was great in The Wrestler. Everybody knows that, but I don't know, something about him in Barfly. He just really dove into that character. And the director, Barbette Schroeder, and apparently he and the director were at each other's throats the entire time, which is interesting that the movie turned out as well as it did, considering that. One of my favorite quotes from Rourke about the movie was like, somebody asked him something about it. He's like, hey, it's about a drunk, written by a drunk.
Accurate.
It was accurate. It was accurate. Yeah. Like, and he goes, the director was an asshole.
That sounds like Mickey Rourke.
Yeah. Man of few words, but you know what I mean? Yeah. It all ended up, great movie. I highly recommend it.
He's one of those guys that's like the great Hollywood what if. Like, what if he'd been in more films with, better, like, I mean, not to say he didn't do some great films with talented people, but like he should have done a lot more with his level of talent. He's great in Angel Heart. He's great in Barfly. He's great in The Wrestler. I mean, like when he wants to show up, he's one of those guys when he's engaged, he's going to give you a great performance. And I guess maybe sometimes they just go, well, we don't know which Mickey Rourke we're going to get. Kind of like, I guess, Nick Cage. He was like the pre-Nick Cage in some ways. Like, are we going to get Nick who shows up for Leaving Las Vegas? Or are we going to get Nick, I just need a paycheck to pay for my comic book collection? But yeah, Rourke is like always one of those guys that I look at and go, man, when he's on, he's so friggin' good. And you're like, why didn't he do more? That's one of his best performances for sure.
Yeah.
And that's one that has one of those amazing canon stories behind it, because it's a film that Barbette Schroeder had been trying to get made for years and years and spent years working with Bukowski and developing it. And they got to where they were about to shoot it with Canon, and Canon was in terrible financial trouble and they had canceled it. And he very famously went into the Canon offices with this small electric saw, and threatened to cut off his own fingers, one at a time until they allowed Barfly to continue being made. And it's an amazing story. You'll hear it in Electric Boogaloo. You'll hear it in but Bukowski retold it. There's a book he wrote called Hollywood, which is really a very, very thinly veiled his version of the making of Barfly. And that story's in there. Roger Ebert visited the set, and Bukowski had told him the same. See, the story that it exists in so many places, so it's heavily attached to Barfly, and it's amazing. Because I talked to Barbette Schroeder for the second book, and I asked him, and he's like, yeah, the version you heard is about 90% true. Usually the version you hear, it's like he goes in with a chainsaw or something, and no, he's like, it was just a small Black & Decker electric saw. He could have still chopped his own fingers off with it, but it's not as big as the version, like the chainsaw that he has in the Bukowski version. But yeah, when he says that, this story, he really did go into Canon's office. He really did threaten to cut off his own fingers one at a time. It's that's the part that's true. The part that's ridiculous is that people said it was a chainsaw. That tells you something about Barbette Schroeder.
That's right. That's dedication to getting his movie done. You know what I mean? So yeah, but to echo Mike's sentiment, yeah, I mean, Mickey Rourke had a ton of charisma. He was a great actor. I think it came too easy to him, and he just got burnt out, and he said, screw Hollywood, and Hollywood said, okay, bye. And he had that great comeback with his comeback it started a few years before The Wrestler, but The Wrestler really pushed him over the top. And then and now I mean
he had that time where he was flirting with being a boxer, and like that ill-fated foray into head injuries.
yes yeah.
Well, like, what are you doing, Mickey?
But yeah, great actor, and to me, Barfly is his best performance, because he's not playing that cool, charismatic ladies' man kind of guy. He's playing Bukowski, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, great movie. It got a really awesome limited edition release from Second Sight, I think last year or a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's still in print or not. They probably did a standard release too, but great movie. If you've not seen it, highly recommend it.
Mhm.
What's next for you, Mike?
All right, I'm gonna go with my pre-promised surprise pick this round, and since we've been so highbrow, I want to keep it sort of highbrow. So
Okay.
I'm going to go with a movie that was very important to teenage Mike, a little film called Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Okay, I was not
That's
expecting
surprise. Wow.
I was not
Which
expecting that.
I can't tell you the plot of Ladies Chatterley's Lover because that's not why I was watching it. But Sylvia Christel, you know, sometimes you turn on cable late at night and you get Emmanuel, and then you would get Lady Chatterley's Lover, and you were finagling with your cable box because your parents wouldn't pay for HBO, and you were trying to make sure you could see the Skinamax nudity type thing, so you had to get it just right in between the channels, and you would get it in. But which is funny because at the time I had no idea that was a canon film until later. So I have actually seen it, and it's funny because it's like you would not expect them to adapt a D.H. Lawrence book. That's a little bit literary. It feels literary for canon. It feels like out of their wheelhouse, and yet it's a really interesting movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I went back to revisit it as an adult just to, like, I'm like, I should actually just see this movie once, like without just watching the sex scenes. And I went back, and it's pretty good. I've never read the novel, so I don't know how faithful it is, but just from what I've read, it's not like too terribly far off. So yeah, I've just I don't have a ton to say about it other than that. I just thought it was really like I thought it was interesting because I didn't think anybody would pick it, and it was something that teenage me was like, oh, Lady Chatterley's Lover's on this week. I guess I know what I'm watching. But it does have nice production values, actually. Like it doesn't look super cheap, and I know we all think about Sylvia Christel and think of her as, basically just doing for sex scenes, but she's not bad in that movie. She's, it's like it's a sad movie in a lot of ways. And especially when you get to the end. But yeah, it's one that, like, I don't know. It's just like, to me, that's sort of emblematic of canon in some ways, is that you knew you were going to get these Bronson movies and these Chuck Norris movies and ninja movies and weird stuff like Lifeforce, but you were also going to sometimes get a Barfly or a Lady Chatterley's Lover. Sylvia made a man out of many of us back in the day on Cinemax. Amen. That's a lot of info I'm sharing tonight, but hey, that's me. So there are no secrets here. But yeah, it's just like it to me, like, you look at that and you go, like, it's easy to dismiss canon as guys who just made sort of B movies and kind of action movies and a lowest common denominator type stuff that was entertaining but not necessarily good. And but that wasn't always the case. Like we see with Runaway Train and Barfly and stuff like this that they got involved with projects sometimes that were actually decent ideas and like had decent source material and things like that. So so that's my pick.
I was not expecting.
You were not. See, I know. So I went through the list 100 times. I'm like, there's got to be like something on here that nobody's gonna pick that I like, and I'm like, oh, there it is. And I'm like, I can make it funny because I'm like, oh, we all know why we watched it.
Yeah, that is the surprise pick of the night. I'm guessing.
I like to surprise everybody. I can't help it.
That movie went on to, I'm sure, a number of people's lists right now.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Sylvia Christel made a few movies for canon, and she actually, her husband for a while, Philippe Blott, was in line to direct some things for them and never panned out. But yeah, she was part of the canon family.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I ground the show to a halt with that. My work is done.
It was a shocker. Oh, goodness.
I shocked everybody. That was my goal.
Austin, get us back on track with some sleaze here. Come on.
Yeah, we are on pick 4. Correct. This is scary because there are so many good ones we haven't gotten to yet. Holy moly. I got to go with an obvious pick, I think, at this point, because Yeah, we're staring each other down, and there are some huge ones we're gonna skip out on. But yeah, just because this is one of the quintessential canon franchises, and I will go with the one that started it all. American Ninja. We talk about the Mount Rushmore of canon actors. You have Bronson, Chuck Norris. Michael Dudikoff would be probably the next guy deserving to be up there, and this is his first canon movie. When Sho Kosugi kind of got tired of the whole canon way of doing things, and he left. They kind of took it in a different direction. That would have originally been Ninja 4, and it became just American Ninja. And it started. There ended up being 5 American Ninja movies by the time canon was all finished. But a great movie. Like it puts. It's I think Michael Dudikoff's he's a much more believable ninja than Franco Nero at this point, and they kind of put him in the white ninja. The tagline was "The deadliest art of the Orient is has now come to America," or something like that, that they used in some of the trailers. And it's it's a movie that Sam Furstenberg, again, Revenge of the Ninja, one of the classic ninja movies, but it was Sam Furstenberg again coming into it. And not only did it bring Michael Dudikoff into the fold and make him into an action star, he is somebody who had been in Bachelor Party, and there was a sitcom he was doing before that was a comedic actor, and suddenly launched a unexpected movie action star career that he ran for the rest of his time making movies. But Steve James paired with him, and they are one of the dynamic duos of 80s action movies. They made many great films together. Avenging Force, I've seen. I love the chat here because I keep looking over it, and there's so many great comments in there. And I see some movies in there, I'm like, oh shoot, like I have to talk about that. Avenging Force is the next movie that the two of them made together. They made that in between American Ninja and American Ninja 2. And it's just a great movie. So maybe it's Betamax who's keeps asking who the 5th Pentangle was in that one, because they never got the sequel. They never shared who it was, but it's James Booth, the actor, but who was also the screenwriter of the movie. And he made himself, he was setting himself up to be the 5th Pentangle, because when there was an Avenging Force 2, he wanted to have a bigger role in it as a writer / actor in the movie. So very clever way to write yourself a bigger role. But yeah, anyways, American Ninja, Judy Aronson's in it. She's lovely and wonderful. It's got so many great action scenes. You get Tadashi Yamashita, another one of the essential like movie ninjas, as the bad guy in that one. Just a great film. And again, it launched at least 3 great sequels, and a 4th that's not really a sequel, but was a sequel in name only, but it's entertaining. So we can't leave. I would feel weird if we didn't get to American Ninja. So I have to call that one now. And it gave me a reason to talk about Avenging Force, which is
I was wondering if anyone was going to get to Avenging Force.
Yeah, so. Avenging Force is spectacular. But
well, we'll definitely hit on some honorable mentions after we complete the circle here, because there's like looking at my list, like I've got one on the list that I want to mention, and then I'm like looking at all my honorable mentions, and I'm going,
this is impossible.
So I'm just going to stick with the pick that the pick that I want. And then we'll talk about some others in the honorable mentions. But it is my go. It is my go. So okay. So the final film on my list, and this was again so difficult, so difficult. But I'm a horror guy, and the closest movie to horror on my list up to this point has been Lifeforce, and that's really sci-fi horror, but this is straight up horror. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The second Tobe Hooper joint on my list. It is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that everybody thought they were, or thought they were getting with the first movie, or claimed that they got with the first movie, that they really didn't, as far as blood and gore and violence. So you've got the extreme violence in that one, all the gore, Tom Savini doing his thing and doing it very well. But what I love about the movie is the humor and the whole family dynamic, and the fact that the cook is now the Texas chili cook-off champion, you know, all these years in the run-in. It's like the secret's in the meat. And of course, you know, Chop Top and his whole story and his thing, and Bill Moseley just killing it with that.
Dennis Hopper buying chainsaws.
Dennis Hopper in the film as lefty and right. The good, he's like the uncle of Sally and what was the Will Franklin. Yeah. From the first film, he's been after the Sawyers all this time, and now he's going to face them in their little underground labyrinth. He's one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the guy's like, go give that sucker a whack with those and he's just out there just going ham on this big log with this chainsaw, and the guy's back there going like he's just having the time of his life. Of course, you know, it's a different kind. It's like a teenage Leatherface who's sort of, you know, he's feeling things he's never felt before towards Stretch, and like, you know, great characters, really just colorful. They bleep off the screen at you. I love the visually. I think it's great. It's Hooper just being Hooper. Again, the sense of humor I think is incredible. Great cast, just all around such a fun movie. And like when you find out how that movie was made, like literally you talk about a movie that was being written while it was being made. The writer L.M. Kit Carson actually at one point was writing a scene, and somebody walked up to him and said, "Oh, you don't need to write that anymore." And he goes, "Well, why?" "Well, we just shot it." It's like, okay, moving on. Because Canon were constantly taking money out of the budget, which caused them to have to, you know, compress everything down. And I don't know, I've always, the first time I saw that movie, I really didn't know what to expect, and I felt like dirty after watching the movie, because it has that very grimy, sweaty, dirty kind of feel about it. And I don't know, I've just grown to love it for all of those reasons I mentioned. I love the gore. I love the sense of humor. I love the characters. I love everything about it.
The marketing is brilliant with the Breakfast Club riff poster. That's just like
there perfect. It is. There it is.
Yeah. It looks like this nice wholesome tape, and you do have this scuzzy movie inside there.
Yeah, nice wholesome cannibal family. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love that movie to death.
It's funny because I remember seeing it the first time as a kid on VHS, and I was a little weirded out by it at first because I'd seen Texas Chainsaw, and I'm like, okay, Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw, I'm back for more of this, and then when it's sort of funny, I didn't know what to make of it. Like it was so different than what I was expecting in my brain. It took me like the first half hour. I'm like, I don't know what's going on in this. What's this movie trying to do? And then, but by the time you get to him buying the chainsaw, you're like, oh, now I get it. This is awesome. Like
when he's in the lair in the third act, and he's sawing it down while singing, you know, church songs or whatever. That great, you know, showdown at the end where the cook's like, who the hell are you? I'm the Lord of the Harvest. Some kind of new health food bunch or something like that. but see, another thing I love about it too is how, you know, I mentioned like you know, the cook is now the chili cook-off champion. He's like he's turned into like a capitalist. He's making big money on cannibalism. You know what I mean? He's like, You know what I mean? Like that, just that whole thing and the yuppie thing, and it's very 80s.
It's so funny because that movie could have gone so wrong, and
Oh, yeah.
somehow they get it just right.
Yeah, it's a movie too because Toby was just coming off of Poltergeist, Lifeforce, and Invaders from Mars. These three gigantic kind of movies where he has these huge budgets and lots of time. Lifeforce was actually the longest shoot that Cannon ever did. He had weeks and weeks and weeks, just long schedule. But then it got to Texas 2. They had it going into theaters in August of that year. It's February. They don't have a director. They don't have a script. And finally, it's like, Toby, you've got to stop working on Invaders from Mars. You got to stop editing it. We need you to make the movie so we don't get fined. There wasn't a script for that movie until May. There wasn't the last day of shooting was July 4th. The movie was in theaters, I believe, August 12th to the 22nd. I don't remember offhand, but it's just a few weeks later. They, in their marketing, Canon, of course, and all the ads are like, we're releasing it unrated because there's no way with like this movie, like as gory as it is and all what the horrors that you see, they wisely they played that in their favor. The real reasoning is they just didn't have time to finish the movie, make prints, and also submit it to the MPAA. There just wasn't time. They were really making the prints of that movie and shipping them and getting them to the theater the day it was opening in a lot of cases. So it's amazing to know that that movie came together that quickly. But Canon would have had to pay big fines if they missed the release date because they had already collected the money from all these theaters that had booked it and been advertising it. The trailer, so if people look it up online, the early trailers, the teasers are talking about like, oh, a sequel that's more horrifying than the original. It's just some glints of a chainsaw, and it's definitely somebody at Canon just taping like a chainsaw in a dark room and making this trailer without Toby involved because they haven't read a script. They don't know what the sequel is going to be and what the tone of it is going to be, which is just wonderful.
And that mask on Leatherface after he saws through the door, it's like a pig mask or something. It looks it just looks weird, you know. That was probably Menachem probably shot that in his garage.
His garage.
It's
shed.
Oh, jeez.
Great movie, and definitely just such a left turn signal sequel. I love it. I'm glad you brought it up because it was in my stack of tapes. Clearly, I had it within reach.
I had to.
Yeah, so good.
Mike, what's your last official pick?
Whew, this is tough because there are two here and only one can make it. There are many here, but there are two in the last slot. Only one can make it. I'm going to wimp out and take the easy way out. And bring me back full circle to where we started. We started with Revenge of the Ninja, so I'm going to go for my last pick with Ninja 3: The Domination. Only because I find all the backstory of that movie's production fascinating, and I have questions for Austin. so this is selfish. This is totally.
Please.
I'm sorry, guys. This is just for my own edification. So Ninja 3 is a really weird movie. Like I'm about to launch a podcast, and it's about B movies, and the first episode is about Ninja 3, and so I spent a lot of time, like a lot of research, and I wish I'd known about Austin's books because it would have made my life easier. And I did not. It's really weird because it's like The Exorcist meets a ninja movie, but it's also got like Polybius, the video game urban legend, tossed in there, and
little flash dance.
Flash dance, and like it's fascinating to me because like we're not going to let Sho Kosugi be the hero anymore. He's going to have to be the supporting character, and we're going to make Lucinda Dickey the ninja now, which is like the weirdest choice ever. Like, no offense to her, I think she's great. Like, I think she does a really good job for someone who is not a ninja, is not a martial artist. She comes into this movie and she's believable enough. She's more believable than Franco Nero. Let's just put it but it's so weird because then you show up and you've got like the movie opens and you're at this golf club, golf course, and there's this dignitary there with the security guards, and there's a gray ninja who's there to assassinate him, and I forget that guy's name, but he's not Japanese, he's like Korean American. And then you've got James Hong as like a Japanese mystic, he's Chinese. like, like, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You guys, like, you couldn't find Japanese guys for these parts or whatever. But and it's fascinating to me because it feels like 6 different movies thrown into a blender and then spit out. And so what I've always been most fascinated about with it, and my question for Austin is like, I have read that obviously this was the end of the line for Kasugi and Golan and Globus, but I've never heard anyone say what exactly the thinking was, because to me, it's funny that you would go like, okay, we have Sho Kasugi. He's a bad guy in Enter the Ninja. We find him. He's a star in the making, and we like him. We make him the bad guy. Then we come to Revenge of the Ninja. We like him so much, we're going to make him the star. And by the 3rd film, we've got a franchise going here, but we don't want this guy to be the star anymore. We want to put a lady in the lead role. And I know he was unhappy. He didn't believe that a woman could be a ninja or that she could beat a man and all this stuff. And they kind of brought him on board with the extra that she's possessed by a ninja. But like, what was the thinking? Was it that they just felt like they had already money in Norris and Bronson and the like, and that he was going to have them over the barrel if he was the face of this franchise, and they kept going with it, and they were kind of beholden to keep paying him more money? Or was it just like, was there some drama between the 3 of them, or what exactly happened there?
So I think a lot of the thinking was just driven by Menachem wanted the 3rd movie to be about a female ninja. Like that was, and there was no changing his mind. And I think that was pretty insulting to Sho, because
I would imagine
he had gone from being there, and like he did so much of the choreography in those first 2 movies, and he was starting to build his career. Revenge did very well, and it made a major star out of him, at least as far as ninjas. He was the movie ninja, and Menachem wasn't backing down. It was going to be a movie about a female ninja, and he wasn't going to be the star. And I mean, he did come back to play the villain, and he did help with the choreography and things like that. But for him, I think they were kind of spitting in his face. I can understand why he would be mad and not want. And the other thing was, Sho Kasugi was a real martial artist. Like he took this stuff very seriously, and to go from being in Revenge, where he's the star, his children are in it, who he worked with in a lot of his future movies afterwards, and instead he has to walk through an actress who, Lucinda Dickey, I love, but she's not a martial artist.
She's not a ninja.
She's a solid gold dancer. That's where Canon, like that's what she was doing before she came to Canon. And he has to like try to walk her through this choreography and things like that. So to go from where his career was going up to suddenly they don't really respect him. And I think a lot of that too, unfortunately, is probably because he was an Asian actor, and they didn't want to keep making, they didn't think that was as marketable. That's also the unfortunate truth of it at the time, as marketable as a girl who wasn't in anything else.
Well, I know they had such big plans for her. She was going to be like the first lady of Canon Films and all this stuff, and then that she kind of just went like, I'm going to go raise kids.
1984 was the year of Lucinda Dickey at Canon, because it was Bracken 2, and Ninja 3, all in 7 months, I think, was the span between those 3 movies coming out in theaters.
And see, it's always funny to me because like I had such an affinity for Revenge, and then Ninja 3 is so weird, but I still like it because it's just weird. And so I had a hard time with American Ninja at first, because going, I'm not like a weeb, but like, one of those guys, but like to me, the ninja was supposed to be a Japanese guy. And like when we make him an American ninja, it was weird at first. Like it took me a while to warm up to American Ninja. I eventually did, but I've just always been like, it's so wild to me that Revenge of the Ninja had done so well, like what MGM picked it up and distributed it, and they made a lot of money on that movie for what they put into it. And then to kind of come back and go for the third movie, well, yeah, dude, we're sorry, you're a supporting actor now, and you can help this chick learn the moves, and I mean, it didn't end terribly for him because he went and made Pray for Death and stuff like that, and I think Pray for Death is fantastic, but yeah, I was just always curious, like, because I did all this research and read all this stuff about, there was this split here, there's this fracture, and I'm like, I think I get it from his side. I didn't get it from their side. And I thought with them, it probably had to be about money somehow. I didn't know if it was because, again, because they thought he wasn't as marketable, or which seems totally foreign to me because the previous film had done so well, but or that they just felt like he was going to become a big star if they kept pumping out these movies, and then he was going to want more and more money, and they just weren't going to want to pay. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, he didn't make much money from them, sadly.
I was gonna say, I didn't figure he did. I just thought, like, I didn't think he was making Chuck Norris money or anything like that.
Yeah, it was something he was doing these, and I think hoping to build a career out of it. And and they kind of shut that down all of a sudden.
It's really interesting because he's like a Renaissance man now. He's like Takeshi. He writes books and taiko bands, and I was like, God, he does a lot of stuff other than act now.
Yeah, and he ended up making some great movies right after the split with Pray for Death and
Pray for Death and Rage of Honor was good. Yeah.
Even Nine Deaths of the Ninja is silly, but you get to see him in kind of a
you got to do a movie with Van Damme.
Yeah, Black Eagle.
Black Eagle. So
he got movies where he also got to control more of what he did. Pray for Death is like clearly Kasugi gets to like bring all of his favorite like cool ninja gear into it.
That's my second favorite after Revenge.
Yeah.
Pray for Death is just him just totally cutting loose. The helmet, the the whole getup. It's good.
He almost
No, go ahead.
Oh, I said he almost got back together with Menachem in the early 90s. They had a movie that they took out some ads in Variety for, that it was going to be a new sort of, or almost a continuation of the original like ninja trilogy from Canon, bring like a new one, but that was with 21st Century Film Corporation, Menachem's company right after Canon, and their financials. He wasn't with Yoram anymore at that point. That's after the cousins split up, so he didn't have his like financial wizard. So that company imploded much quicker than Canon did, because it just having Menachem making all the decisions.
There was no counterbalance there.
No
voice of reason or more reason.
So, but I would have loved, in some alternate timeline out there, we did get that fourth ninja movie in like 1991 or 92 that when Menachem brought him back, and it was. But it's a bummer he left, because
it really is. I mean, I like Ninja 3. I will like never feel bad for liking it, because even though but I'm always just curious because I like shows so much.
And he went to Transworld Entertainment after that, and that's like, as far as budgetary, like a step below Canon, but he did so much cool stuff in those movies. And had he had that slightly higher budget, maybe slightly more experienced crew and things like that, those movies could have been even like better. Classics everybody is talking about all the time. Right. Like those would have been the like peak ninja movies.
I am glad you brought up Ninja 3, because there were a lot of people at the beginning of the stream like, Ninja 3 Domination better be on this freaking list.
It's there. I got you guys. I got you.
So you made a lot of people happy out there for the Ninja 3.
Like, I was like, can I do 2 ninjas? Is that cheating? But I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna do it, because I just wanted to know the answer to those questions. So I was like, who better to ask?
Exactly. There you go. What is your final official pick, Austin?
So I'm looking here, and we have a stack of like snubs, like real ones that we're gonna have to address in our honorable mentions here. Things that are some of the best or most well-known Canon movies that we have left out. So rather than having to pick between one of these, at least 3 I see sitting down here that are really hard to leave out, I'm gonna take a bit of a more lesser known choice, but I've seen it mentioned in the comments, so there's somebody here who's going to be pretty happy, but it's a personal favorite of mine. Just another bonkers movie in the same vein as The Apple. That is Norman Mailer's Tough Guys Don't Dance.
Okay.
This is a movie that has the fans that are really hardcore, but a weird movie made by Pulitzer Prize winning author Norman Mailer, who had made some movies in the 60s, really wasn't qualified to be shooting a studio film, but Cannon wanted him to write the script for Jean-Luc Godard's King Lear. And so he agreed to do that on the condition that they gave him the money to adapt his most recent novel into a movie. And that's something that just happened again. And sure, let's give $5 million to Norman Mailer to get Ryan O'Neal, Isabella Rossellini, Wings Hauser to all come to his house. Like, most of the movie was filmed at Norman Mailer's house and like at the bars that he drank at and just like in his nearby neighborhood. And it's this movie where Ryan O'Neal plays a like aspiring author who's more of a drunk, and he has two loves. He has this blonde who was this kind of wild woman who dumped him, and he had hooked up with her after kind of leaving the love of his life, who was played by Isabella Rossellini. So he's haunted by these two women. But the whole what we see in the story, we kind of see what happens as it's playing out, but we also get lots of flashbacks. Is he goes out to check on his weed stash. He has this bag of weed buried in the woods, but he finds a woman's severed head in it. And this is after he wakes up covered in blood. Lawrence Tierney is his dad, who shows up and starts drinking, giving advice how to like cover up a murder and things like that. And it's this movie where it's just really this guy who is trying to solve this murder. He doesn't even know who the victim is, because that's something he doesn't even look at whose head it is till like very much later in the movie. And then other heads show up in the same bag at different points. You got this unreliable narrator trying to solve this crime, which he might also be he thinks he's likely the criminal too, but he's just trying to like check all his bases to make sure he's not the killer. And you get Wings Hauser in this says a lot. I think one of his most unhinged performances.
That is saying a lot.
It is just a crazy movie. Again, I'm not going to do it justice. Everybody knows, if they know anything about the movie, they know about this one YouTube clip that has millions and millions in views. And it's this moment where Ryan O'Neal is out reading a letter on a beach out in Cape Cod, and he reads the contents. It's being read. It's from Isabella Rossellini. So she's reading it. And then once he hears what the letter says, he looks up and he starts saying, "Oh God, oh man, oh God, oh man, oh God, oh man, oh God, oh man." He keeps repeating. And the camera starts whipping around him. And it's just one of these, it's so cheesy. It's so, and the movie is incredibly campy, and part of it's on purpose. Part of it is not. It's made by a guy who didn't have the he'd never made a movie on this scale before. It is just I think it's a beautiful movie. It's kind of obscure. Vinegar Syndrome did put it out. And why I like to talk about it, not only is it one of my favorite Cannon movies, but you can watch Vinegar with Syndrome's website, anybody who shops there, and they will look at, you can watch the numbers go down pretty steadily. And a disc comes out, usually like something like Texas 2 or the Death Wish 2, like by the time it's actually come on sale, when it crossed the threshold to be as part of one of their Black Friday sales, it's like usually down like 200 copies left, or like no
less
slip
than
covers.
1,000 for sure.
Yeah. This still has over 1,000 copies of the slipcover, and I think it's a 3-year-old release. So again, like anytime if you're ever shopping on there, like, and you're just considering it, this movie will not disappoint. It is so wacky, so weird. It doesn't make sense. It's one of these movies that you can watch. You've got to watch it several times to try to even get an idea of what the chronology of things played out, who did what. And yeah, and Wings Hauser's brilliant in it. Absolutely brilliant.
Co-written by Robert Towne.
Yes. And that was a handy rewrite canon. I mean, obviously Norman Mailer adapting his own script, and they saw the script, and I mean, multiple Pulitzers, like very, very qualified as a writer and as a journalist, as a nonfiction author, novelist, but not so much as a screenwriter. And at the time, Robert Towne was trying to get the Two Jakes made, and Cannon was waiting on that. They had agreed to make the Two Jakes if they could get if Towne could get Jack Nicholson to come to them for it. And Jack Nicholson was just like, no, I'm not doing a Cannon movie. And but in the meantime, Robert Towne's like, we could still wait, Menachem. I'm gonna keep working on them. And Menachem's like, hey, why don't you do a polish on this Norman Mailer script for us? Try to get it more in a shooting order. So if you're gonna get somebody to do a pro bono polish on a script by a Pulitzer Prize winning author, that's one of the crazy things. And this is all for a Wingshauser movie. Yeah, but Canon, only at Canon, only in the 1980s.
Only Canon in the 80s. You're right.
That is amazing.
Oh my God. And also Tough Guys Don't Dance. It's on Tubi. I just added it to my watch list. So put it on your watch list.
It will not disappoint. I promise.
So we've gone around the horn and we've each given our 5 favorite Cannon films. But of course, 15 Cannon films just isn't enough. It's not even scratching the surface. So I know we've got some honorable mentions. I know we've got some movies in our back pockets to bring out and shine some light on. So why don't we do that? And I'm sure we've got a lot, but just for the sake of time, let's each do like 3 honorable mentions. How's that sound? All right.
Make sure I have 3 left.
Well, I'll go ahead and throw mine out there. My 3 honorable mentions. Number 1. I may have to make it 4, but we'll just say 3 for right now. Number 1, of course, how could I not mention Death Wish 3? I mean, it's Death Wish 3. It's Charles Bronson basically committing genocide. He wipes out an entire generation of people in the movie. He kills forget about the body counts of Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. They all pale in comparison to Paul Kersey in Death Wish 3. And I don't know where I forget where they shot that film. I think it was in the UK or something where they shot that film.
Part of it was in New York and part of it was all the action was in the UK. All the sets did blow up in.
It seems to me like they, instead of like a suburban neighborhood that they were going to destroy, they went to like a ghetto that was already destroyed, that they just go ahead and destroy it. Put the nail in the coffin, because like they're blowing up buildings and there's people flying through windows, and there's just it's Charles Bronson is the angel of death in that movie. He kills so many people, and it's so over the top. And that was the last time Bronson worked with Michael Winner. They had a pretty long history of working together on a number of films, and they had a falling out. Not Austin, maybe you know why. I'll ask you here momentarily. Yeah. But it's Death Wish 3. If you've not seen Death Wish 3, my God, I mean, it is incredible. It's most people's favorite Death Wish. I love it. It doesn't quite beat out Death Wish 2 for me, but my God. So do you know the story behind Bronson and Michael Winner's?
Yeah, I mean, multiple reasons going into it, but one of the reasons that Bronson, what's funny to say this about Charles Bronson, the star of the Death Wish franchise and so many other classic violent movies, but he didn't love violence in movies. And one of the reasons he at least didn't wanted to move away and sort of, we got J. Lee Thompson to come do the next Death Wish sequel, is because he thought Death Wish 3 was too violent. And it's funny to listen because he did press for Death Wish 3. And this whole time, and Bronson's in his late 60s at that point, and he's just complaining about how violent the movie is while promoting it. It's way too violent. There's too many. I shoot too many people. It's ridiculous. And this is how he's promoting the movie for canon. But yeah, and Michael Winner also, he was a big personality. It was his way or the highway on sets. Bronson liked to have some sort of control at that point. He was also, I mean, again, he was getting close to 70 and not wanting to do 3, 4, 5 takes of an action scene over and over again. He could count on J. Lee Thompson. There's a great quote when he was working on Kinjite, which is a movie that has come up in the comments plenty of times. Another great J. Lee Thompson and Charles Bronson collaboration. But he talks about, somebody asked him about why he wasn't working with Michael Winner anymore. And one of the things he says is, Michael Winner, I liked working with him. He could get everything done in 3 takes or less of time. But J. Lee can do it in 2. And so it was just his endorsement at that time. Bronson's somebody who he also, canon was a great time for him. It was something he was getting to. He still had like young kids. Jill Ireland was his wife at the time, and they had kids together. She had kids from her previous marriage, and she was also sick. She was very famously going through a battle with breast cancer, and she was one of these first celebrities to really come out with the books about her struggle and her battle with illness and things like that. So she was very sick at the time, and he did not like being away. So Canon was a company that they would shoot the movies in, 8 to 10 weeks. Like, he could go away. That's all he'd have to do. They would shoot him often like around LA, or like bring his family along, employ them in different ways. And then he could spend the rest of the time in Vermont riding around their horse ranch on a motorcycle and like visiting with his family. So it was something so I think at that point in his career too, he wanted to work with whoever could really help him pump these movies out. He's like, I gotta make a check. I gotta make a check. Let's, I'm getting $4 million for this movie. Like, can I do it in 6 weeks and be out of there?
What I love about the Charles Bronson, Jill Ireland story is, you think Charles Bronson, this tough, gruff guy, you know what I mean? And if you know anything about Bronson, he grew up very, very poor, very meager beginnings, and he ends up with this very proper British lady. Opposites attract. And they were in so many movies together, and they were like, there's plenty of interviews with like Charles Bronson and Jill from back in the day, and they're just like so sweet together. You can tell like they really loved each other. And I saw an interview, I think it was with Bronson. I think he was on the set of Death Wish 5. Maybe it was that Cop and Family of Cops movie. I don't remember, but it was after Jill had passed away. And they had asked him like, do you ever read her books? And he was like, no. He goes, what did he say? He said something like, I like to remember her, appear. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't want to, I guess, relive the whole breast cancer thing. You know what I mean? So, but they definitely loved each other. There was definitely a lot of chemistry there. It's odd, this poor kid from West Virginia who wasn't a movie star until he was 40. You know what I mean? And this very prim and proper English lady. They made it work. So,
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. But Death Wish 3, that's my first one. That's kind of a given. Everybody knows I'm into these Death Wish flicks. I want to mention, of course, I've got to throw out their Cyborg, Masters of the Universe 2, I mean. At least it started as Masters of the Universe 2. But
that seems so close to making my list.
Yeah, I just love that movie. That was another one that, like, I don't remember renting it that much because it was on cable television every night. It was on TBS or TNT or Cinemax. It was just on constantly. And that post-apocalyptic, it was like post-apocalyptic, martial arts action, but like, everybody had like 15 different knives on them, you know what I mean? So it was just, I mean, come on, just such a fun fun movie. And of course, Albert Penn, who directed the film, passed away recently. He directed a lot of great movies. He was one of the directors who was on the Spider-Man list as well for a while. So
yeah, he was one of those directors that worked great under Canon conditions, because he could work at any time you gave him, at any budget you gave him. He would get the movie in, no matter what he had to work with, and it always looked like an Albert Penn movie. Like, yeah. So Canon loved him once they got working together.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. But yeah, Cyborg, love that movie to death. I've seen it a million times. I mean, come on, one of my favorite Van Damme movies too. So the last one I'll mention, and this is really tough because I'm sure somebody's going to mention this one, so I won't. I'll throw out another Tobe Hooper film, and that's Invaders from Mars. Of the Hooper canon era, I think this is the one that gets slept on the most. But again, like, they put, at least it looks like it cost a lot of money. The production design, the production values, the cinematography, the look of the aliens, the look of the spaceship, it looks incredible. Just such a great looking movie. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's definitely not Chainsaw 2. You know what I mean? It's definitely not Lifeforce. You know, I think they were shooting for wasn't it like a PG-13 rating or something like that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was something they were kind of wanting to be, I think, more kid-friendly, family-friendly. But again, it's canon, and it's Tobe Hooper. So, I mean, it's like, you take your kids to watch this, you're going to freak them the hell out. But I think it's a great-looking movie. Definitely pays a lot of homage to the original film, and it just gets slept on, I think, very unfairly. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really good one, but definitely compared to the craziness that is both Texas 2 and Lifeforce, it can see how it gets overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, have you got your top three?
I've got three. So I think one of the big, we missed two obvious ones, I feel like, to me. The first, obviously, Missing in Action, another Chuck flick. It's really funny to me because Missing in Action was a big deal in the 80s at the same time like Rambo was, obviously, and all the sort of Vietnam stuff was. But we don't talk about Missing in Action much anymore. Like, nobody I know ever talks about those movies anymore. And like, but at the time I loved them. Like, it was very much your poor man's sort of Rambo type movie, especially as they went on. But I always liked Chuck more than Sly in that kind of role. I always found Chuck going back to Nam and to Rescue Guys more believable than Stallone for some reason, because Stallone is always Stallone. And while Chuck is maybe not the same caliber of actor as Stallone is, he's just more believable in that role to me for some reason. And I can't quite articulate why, but I think, like, we got three of those movies. I think they're all three fun. I think the first is the best, obviously. But the second is pretty good. And the third is like, but I just felt like we had to get those out there for sure. So that was my first one. The second one, speaking of Sly, I think we have to talk about Cobra, right? That was like their biggest film, like money wise. Wasn't that their biggest grossing film?
That's the one I was.
I know somebody had to get Cobra. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh, should I do Cobra? And I'm like, somebody's got to have that one, right? I mean, look, if nothing else, it gave us Stallone and Nielsen, the marriage type thing. I was like, it was part of the beginning of the relationship, I think. So, that's one I haven't seen in a long time, but it's really funny because I was watching Stone Cold today for another podcast episode. Awesome. And I'm like, I love Stone Cold to death. And it never dawned on me until today that both of those films opened in a supermarket with somebody shooting up the place. And I'm like, they ripped off Cobra. And I'm like, but this is still awesome. I don't care. So, but Cobra, that's one too. Like, it's really weird to me that like those two, Missing in Action and Cobra, were really big films at the time that you really couldn't get away from them. People talked about them constantly. They were very popular. And I feel like in Stallone's body of work, we really don't ever talk about Cobra anymore. And sometimes I get why, because it's it's obviously not his finest work, but I think like for what it is, it's kind of it's very gritty for him, and it's sort of unpleasant, and I guess that's probably why people don't talk about it, because you'd like to think of Sly as like Rocky or Rambo, and a little more I don't want to say family friendly, because I don't think Rambo is particularly family friendly, but like a little more Hollywood mainstream friendly.
Yeah.
And I think Cobra is kind of a gritty, grimy film, and maybe that's why we don't talk about it so much anymore. And for my third pick, I'm going to do something really ridiculous and go with Ruggero Deodato's The Barbarians. Not because it's good, because it's awful. And so, but I am an absolute sucker for Italian sword and sorcery films, and the idea of the guy who made Cannibal Holocaust directing The Barbarian Brothers and Richard Lynch in a fantasy film is just too goddamn good not to mention it. I mean, we can talk about like a lot of other movies here, and like nobody's ever going to put that on like their best of list, but it's ridiculous and I kind of love it. So I actually just bought it on Blu-ray. So, so those are my three.
I can totally echo Cobra, because that's the one that I was going back and forth with Invaders from Mars on.
I have both of those on my list too. So
Cobra was another one. I don't remember ever renting it because it was constantly on.
Yeah, you couldn't turn on cable on the weekend without finding Cobra at least 3 times.
Oh yeah. And I loved the it's got the slasher movie element.
Yeah, it's got the slasher vibe. Yep.
And like you said, it's very gritty, and like, you know, it had it's just
you always want to take a shower after watching it. Like it always makes me feel grimy.
Well, especially at that third act where at the end where they're in that whatever that place is, and there's just molten lava everywhere.
Yeah, it's weird.
Both Thompson and Stallone are just like
sweating. Yeah,
dripping.
It's really a grimy movie.
Yeah, it's grimy as hell. Yeah, but that's something that's so great about it.
Yeah.
And like I've heard there's a much there's a longer cut of the film that's out there, or it happened at least a more violent, longer cut of the movie, which I would love to see.
Yeah, the work prints.
Yes,
legs are out there somewhere. It's not unavailable, but it's not available in any official capacity that I'm aware of. Maybe on some German Blu-ray release or something, but.
I have a research project.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, Cobra. And from my understanding too, like I heard basically Stallone directed that movie. You know, Cosmatos was just kind of there, and Stallone was really directing that movie. So
it's a good one though.
You guys both made this hard for me. So right before I picked up 4 movies, and both of you introduced one of your picks in a way that I thought for sure you were going to name one of these, and I could eliminate it easy enough. But I'll do 4, really
man.
Quick.
You're the expert. Do 4.
So you mentioned one of the Van Damme's first big movies that everyone knows, everybody loves, Bloodsport. That's another one that was on constant cable rotation. Just one of the classic 80s martial arts like action movies, and it made a star out of Van Damme. I mean, Cannon really discovered him, and unfortunately they weren't able to they weren't financially able to that point to retain him, so he quickly went out of their price range. He did Bloodsport and Cyborg for them, and then was making crazy money in getting into the 90s. But I don't have to talk too much about that one, because everybody knows.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned, I heard you said Stallone, and I was like, is he gonna say we have to mention
over the top?
Over the top. Yep.
The Stallone
this is impossible.
Driving
There's so many movies.
Movie, directed by Menachem Golan again. With a script by David Engelbach of Death Wish 2 fame. It was this is just one of the craziest histories of this one, because this movie was originally meant to be a sequel to The Farmer, the like exploitation movie with George Conway.
I have no idea about that.
It was originally meant to be the follow-up to The Farmer, and
really
through 7 years later, now almost 10 years later, it became, the Stallone's PG arm wrestling movie. So yeah, that's a fun chapter in the book, because this movie went from being this R-rated, gritty, low budget film to being this, making Stallone the highest paid actor in Hollywood. That's just funny too, is he set the record for making the most for one movie, and it wasn't for Rambo, it wasn't for a Rocky movie, it was for Over the Top.
And who would have thunk it? An arm wrestling movie did not break the box office.
Right.
No, it broke canon.
It broke canon, yeah.
But all right, so yeah, those ones are I don't think we need to spend too much time on. You mentioned Deodato, another Italian director I love from all of his work with Argento and on his own films is Luigi Cozzi, who made several canon movies. His Hercules, it's a very battered, beat up copy, but with Lou Ferrigno and some incredible stop motion and cheesy practical effects, and it's just a fun movie. And if you are a fan of Italian horror, you'll recognize everyone in it, or like spaghetti westerns or anything, because this is just like a who's who cast of, outside of Lou Ferrigno and Sybil Danning, everyone else in there is like, oh, I know that guy from Anthropophagus or something like that. Like you recognize him from some like much grittier, much less, family fantasy film. And
I love that one.
Oh, it's fun. And yeah, it was the start of their relationship with Luigi Cozzi, who did several movies with them. And yeah, so that's one. That's another that's one of the more family friendly. And speaking of, my picks outside of Bloodsport have all been, my honorable mentions are all pretty family friendly tonight. My last one is everybody's favorite sequel, Bracken 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yep.
That's something.
Dickey appears again.
Yeah. It's a movie that Canon in the early 80s, they made movies about Paul Kersey, movies about ninja, and movies about breakdancers. That was like what they did in their early years. And yeah, so you have to mention one of the Bracken movies. Those were both two of the biggest hits that Canon had. The first Bracken was one of the two, that and the first Missing Action were the two most profitable movies Canon ever made, and allowed them to spend money on crazy stuff like Invasion USA and Delta Force and Lifeforce. Like that was made with Bracken money. But Bracken 2 is out of the two, my pick. It's Sam Furstenberg, in between Revenge and, well, he actually made that one after Ninja 3, but yeah, kind of like taking a break from ninja movies to make a dance musical. That the first one, you can't really call it grounded, but the second one, like Boogaloo shrimps dancing on the ceiling, there are people waking up from the dead and break dancing, like nurses flipping down the hallways of a hospital, and people being cured from the brink of death by the magic of dance. And it's just it's a wonderful, wonderful, fun movie. And you don't need to have seen, I mean, they're
you don't need to see the first one, right?
No, they're the same cast, the same actors playing the same characters, but they're barely related. And so Betamax just mentioned Jean-Claude Van Damme was in Bracken. He's a background extra in that, and he was one of the stuntmen in the first Missing in Action. So Canon truly did discover him. They were putting him to work 2 years before he made Bloodsport for him.
Wow.
Look at all the stuff we owe Canon.
I know.
Yeah.
Bog Zombie, thank you for the $5. Broke as a joke, but had to contribute to the best stream I've seen all week. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very kind.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah. Oh my God,
that's expect the Barbarians or Lady Chatterley's lover tonight. I know that.
Those were awesome picks. Those were great.
There were definitely some deep cuts. That's for sure. There were some deep cuts, but that was wow. Yeah, and Mad Bull's wanting a part 2. I think there's enough out there for a part 2, maybe even a part 3. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh, Lord have mercy.
There's a lot of movies on this list.
Oh yeah.
We didn't get to like Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold, or Indiana Jones ripoffs.
Mines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was one I struggled. Like, where's that go?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about the Company of Wolves?
52 pickup.
52
Yeah.
pickup. Yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
Well,
I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus. It was
so many great ones.
I
So
feel
many
like I
great-
failed.
Yeah, this was tough. This was tougher than I could have ever
This was
imagined.
tougher than the last time I was on.
But you don't have the fear of
No,
being canceled.
Nobody's gonna cancel me today.
No.
So yeah, it's a plus.
But that was so much fun. That was so
much fun.
That was great. And again, guys, I've linked both of Austin's books,
Yes.
the Canon Film Guides Volume 1 and 2. They're the pinned comment in the chat. Go over and check them out. You'll definitely you definitely will not be
They will
disappointed.
both
So
be
much
coming to my house this week.
No, thank you.
so much great stuff
Enjoy.
in both those books. Yeah, definitely. Mike, where can we find you on social media, man?
Well, you can always find me on YouTube, the Horror Geek. I host a silly show called Sick Flicks where we riff gory horror movies, lots of Italian stuff, lots of weird stuff. So we're about to launch the podcast over there, B Movie Babylon. And we also have a little show we're experimenting with called Deep Cuts, where I kind of take a horror movie and go a little deeper into certain parts of it, things like that. So beyond that, you can find me on Twitter. I'm Horror Geek over there. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. I'm not hard to find.
He's all
You
over
wanna
the
find
place.
me, I'm easy.
Where can we find you on social media, Austin?
I am at Canon Film Guide on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm on there all the time posting stuff that, I mean, my Canon collection is boxes and boxes here down in my office, and there's stuff that just there's not room for in the books, or stuff that I have learned since then. So I'm always just posting Canon crap on there. So if this stream was your thing, like, definitely check that out. You'll probably enjoy some of the stuff I'm sharing on there.
Mm-hmm. And definitely follow him so you can keep up to date on the Canon Film Guide Volume 3.
Thank you. It's on the way. A lot of work to do still, but it's on the way.
Is there a projected release date in mind?
I don't want to promise anything, but I mean, it's
Okay.
not before late next year. That's
okay.
So hopefully if anybody is waiting for it, they haven't made it through all 1,700 pages of the first two books. But yeah, I got a lot of work to do on it. So late next year at the earliest.
There's enough here to keep you occupied until then.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Let me do some shout outs here before we call tonight. Shout out to Parker for the $9.99 super chat. Shout out to Francis Chainsaw Grimp for the $2 super chat. Thank you, the Daily Ghost, for the $5 super chat. Thank you, Mad Bull, for the $5, and thank you, Bog Zombie, for the $5. Let's see who is still with us. We've got Jobu in the chat. We got Mad Bull. We got Sasha, Eric Shosted, 1980s Betamax, Cliff Booth, Rob Stellick. We've got, who else is still here with us tonight? James Driver. We've got my buddy Christian was in the house earlier. Dan, my buddy Dan. Joe Reese is still with us. Alex Movie Collector 00. Capoto Dives. Or is that CA Photo? I don't know. Some of these names. But anyway,
It's
thank
hard
you
to read the names on the lives.
It is
I murder everybody's name.
Brian Trash is still with us. Jack Mack is still here with us. My buddy Horror Orban is still here with us. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. And again, Mike, thank you for taking the time out.
Of course, anytime.
Always a pleasure. Austin, thank you so much for sharing your vast knowledge of Canon films with us tonight. It's been a blast.
No, I'm so glad you came.
Time. This was a great
so
time.
Good to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Great to finally talk to you in person.
Right on. Yeah. So yeah, you guys have next Sunday I'm going to be joined by Brad Henderson and Jesse Nelson from Diabolic DVD. We're going to be talking about movies that deserve either an upgraded physical media release or just a new physical media release, period. Movies that have been trapped on tape, deserted on DVD. There you go. There you go. So that's going to be a really fun show. Also, so mark your calendars for next Sunday. All right. Thanks again for everybody who tuned in. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks again, Austin. We'll see you all again very soon. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And until next time, peace.